Yes, start streaming, for God's sake. Just do it, my boy. Yes, it is 2 p.m. and it's now time to join the Sunday service. That just popped up on my phone as well. Wild, I didn't know. Did that? Look, you click the bell icon, you get a little notification on your phone. Welcome to the Sunday service. It is 2 minutes to 2 p.m. So I'm a tiny bit early. I am sorry. But I'm here. That's all that matters. I wasn't here last week. Bank holidays, don't do bank holidays. Once Sunday on a bank holiday, forget it, there won't be a Sunday service. But it's not a bank holiday this week. Unfortunately, we do have to return to our normal duties tomorrow. But for today, and for now, and for the next couple of hours, settle in, get a nice cup of coffee, cup of tea, a beer, whatever it is you're doing, whatever it is, and pour me one as well. And we stick together for the next 2 hours and do our thing. Hopefully it's all working out nicely. Everything's running properly. Yes, it seems to be running properly, which is very good. Whoa, a couple of people are already here. Kenneth Fitzpatrick is already here. Bob, when are you out and about again in Portlaoise? I live in Portlaoise. I'm always out and about in Portlaoise. You know what you mean? I live in it. Zidenko has joined us. Thank you, Zidenko, for coming in. Afternoon to you too. A couple of things. I was out this morning at some car boot sales in Wicklow. Car boot sales tend to be crap in Ireland mostly, not like they are in the UK where there's quite a large following, but in Ireland it's either tat or it's Chinese new stuff in plastic, and it's horrible. But I did come across one book I've been dying to read for ages. It's called Jupiter's Travels. It's by Ted Simon. It's a fellow who spent 4 years travelling the world on a motorbike. 63,000 miles in the late 70s, so before world travel was a big thing. He started to do it. I'm down to read it. It was actually the book that was that kind of started Long Way Round, which is Ewan McGregor and Charlie Boorman on Long Way Round, which I was actually watching the other night. And then I continued to watch Long Way Down, which by the two are just so different, so crap. The wife, Ewan's wife, getting involved, now ex-wife, getting involved in the Long Way Down one was crap, and it made it terrible. It was a boys' own adventure, just two lads doing their thing. Even what do you call him? Claudio was not really part of the first one or the second one. He was just there in the background, so it was kind of weird. Anyway, Cross has joined us evening. David Hartman is here. Hi Bob, hope you had a good show. Thanks very much. Nuno M. Hey Bob, watching from Carlo. Welcome Carlo. It's good to have another county on board. Stuart says, would you recommend the A6 Bi-Turbo Serpent Blue? Yes, depending on the year and condition, of course. Bi-Turbo is a really good engine. I'm driving a Skoda the Skoda, what's the big one called? Kodiaq. Kodiaq, right. The Skoda Kodiaq 2-litre bi-turbo this week, and it's a great engine, but they've done a fiddly thing with the noise, and sometimes you can hear the diesel engine and the noise inside the cabin at the same time, so it's kind of weird. It's like they're disconnected somehow, disembodied sort of noises. My wife just made me a lovely cup of coffee. It's really nice. I just drank all that. It's all gone now already. Would you believe that? It goes so quick. Over on our Sunday Service community Facebook page, you can also find information about cars. Lads there often ask and answer questions themselves. There's 500 and something people in it. If you want to get at it, there should be a link in the comments belonging to this video to the Facebook page. You want to go there and ask questions. John Austin has just joined us, first time on your show. John from Manchester. Good man, John. Good to have you aboard. I'm just back from Liverpool this week. I've been working straight now for 22 days straight, every day, 7 days a week. Trying to get stuff out, so I kind of forget what day it is. I know it's Sunday because I'm broadcasting live, but I was in Liverpool. I drove from Oxford to Liverpool, right across the middle of England, in a Mini Cooper S 60th anniversary edition. Really lovely little car. I drove a convertible one as well, really great. The video was out yesterday, I think, on the channel, maybe the day before. It's a good little video. You should watch it. If you haven't watched it, you should watch. Don't watch it now. Stick here until we get through to the end of this. 2014, says Stuart, which is a Serpent Blue A6 Bi-Turbo. Great car. Brilliant car. Bi-Turbo is brilliant. Savage engine. Very high horsepower. Sounds like a V8. Brilliant car. If you can get one in an estate form, lovely. But failing that, the saloon is fine and the Serpent Blue is great. You won't have any problems. They are expensive to service. I will warn you that one. It's not going to be cheap to service the thing, but you'll still have a bit of crack in it because it's just a bloody good car. She says, no problem there, Stuart. Easy peasy. R1 IRL. Hi, Bob. You're keeping me entertained on a road from Abu Dhabi to Dubai. Nice. I like it. That's a good road trip. A road trip I'd actually love to do myself, which would be really just a bit of fun. I think that would be a bit of fun. Although there is very high-speed driving over there, and some of it is deranged high-speed driving by the looks of the videos that I see coming out. Brian Morrissey says, how much would those minis cost? We don't have an official price, but you can expect them to be more expensive than a normal Mini Cooper S. There's only going to be 500 of them total, but I don't actually have an official price for them. I don't think so. Not that I can remember. Some people tell me so much stuff I forget what the story is, but I don't think they're going to be... I would buy a Mini Cooper S, just a Mini Cooper S. I wouldn't worry about the 60th anniversary one, but... if I was looking to make a future investment and there's only going to be 500 of them, chances are they are going to go up in price over the time. So you are looking at possible future classic. Although minis tend to hold on to their value pretty well over time if they are bog standard. The ordinary, normal, Joe-Sup, mini, standard Mayfair thing, that's still worth a good look at if you want to look at the older ones. I am going to be driving not a vintage Mini, but like an 89 or an 88 Mini in a couple of weeks' time. Next week I'm going over to Paris for a very special event. Johnny Smith and all those kind of guys are coming as well. It's sort of a tech show, but there is an autonomous taxi at it, a Renault Zoe electric taxi, and it's autonomous. It's going to drive me around Paris. That's going to climb out through the window stuff, but anyway, it's going to be put to the test as only I test cars, which means if it's supposed to do something, it better do it, because if it doesn't, it's going to be showing up. That's next Wednesday and Thursday. So I don't know what the name of the show is, but if you're at it and you spot me there, come over and say hi. I'll see if we can get the name of it now. Actually, the name of the show could be anything, but if I can think of it, if I can find the email that was sent to me about it, that'd be great. I'm an influencer now, of course. That's why I get invited to these kind of shows. This is not a car show, a totally different show. I don't know what the name of it is. It's basically what it means. I don't know. But anyway, I covered it for the Metro in the UK, so I'm doing that for a UK outlet. The Metro.co.uk. Stuart says, service ain't pricey, but I'm visiting Mercedes on Boucher Road in Belfast to view a midnight blue C43 Barabbas coupe. It's Barabbas, bloody hell, you want to do servicing? That's where the servicing costs are going to go there, Stuart. A C43 Barabbas is going to cost a bleeding mint to service. Much different car than the Biturbo. One's a diesel, one's a petrol for a start, but good crack, really good crack, but very different cars to drive. The Audi is a 4-wheel quattro, this Barabbas isn't this rear-wheel drive. Very, very different car, but good crack though. John Austin says, I have the M140 B58 engine, can get 40 miles per gallon on a run and less than 20 miles per gallon when I boot it. Very happy with the car. That's good, should be. It's a lovely car. You can easily get that sort of stuff. Bigger engines cruise better. If you want to look at something, no matter what size the engine is, if you put a 6.4 litre V12 into Ferrari and you cruised on a motorway, you're going to do better fuel economy than the 1 litre petrol car sitting beside you. I know that sounds weird, but it's true. The weight, the distribution, but then the actual cubic capacity, as the Americans put it, but the capacity of the engine makes it tick over when it's going fast. So you have to be going really fast to really burn any massive amount of fuel, so it's pretty good. Brian Morrissey says, thanks Bob, what else would you put in a potential future classic bracket at the moment? Morris Minors, particularly the travel one, you can still pick up a fairly standard Morris Minor in all right condition for less than $4,000. You know, you can still get them. They're still there. They're hanging about. You will have to put a little bit of work in it. Expect to pay about $6,000 for even a really good one. Maybe $7,000 to $10,000 for a Traveller one. So Traveller one is the one with the wooden back on it. You know, the wooden bars and things. If you're getting that kind of money, that's going to be definitely a collectible because they rot and they rot fast. And they weren't very popular. They were very popular on the road. They weren't very popular as collector's items. So there's not many out there. Another good one would be any Mark 1 or Mark 2 Ford Escort. If you can get the RS2000, great, but I think they're overpriced, to be honest. I think the RS2000s are really overpriced. I also think Capris are really overpriced at the moment too. They're fetching quite big money, and it's just not. It's not in them. I think you could do better than collect a Capri as well. They're good. They're okay to drive if you want to be, the professionals like our television. but it does cost a bit of money to get the old cars running properly as they are. So there's a few there to think about. Have a look up on one of the websites. I won't say one name over the other. They're all the same. They all have basically the same distance. Where are we? Liam Cotter, what do you think of the Volvo 480? Any of the old Volvos? Yes, any of the old Saabs. You can get yourself a nice Saab 93, Saab 997, particularly the estate one of it again, with an automatic box and the kind of nighttime dash. Bang, you've got a total collectible car there. Any of the older Volvos, the kind of, the boxy one, they're boxy but they're good. It doesn't matter which one you want to pick, they're all going to be massively collectible, because Volvo's done away with all of that kind of big boxy look, and they're going very svelte and very clean and very nice and stuff. So very different feel to them. Mick Mulcahy's in the house. Good man, Mick. Stuart says the Barabbas is a 4MATIC 4-wheel drive system, not as reliable as the Quattro all-wheel drive system. Also a totally different thing to drive as well. The 4MATIC from Mercedes did. I don't think they actually continued it after that car, or put it into another car afterwards. Very unreliable. Here's Tal Gaming. Talon has been made for a very, 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 very long, many years from boards and things. Bob, how's the farm? Great. Give me advice on a Jeep for daily Westward Dublin commute under 10k. Need to do it for 3 years. Oh my God, Dublin to Wexford every day in a comfort, in a SUV style car. So you want total reliability, you're going to be looking into something like a Toyota RAV4. That'll get you a petrol engine though. You're going to be kind of stuck looking for diesels around the diesel marks now for the you could under 10 grand. There's the problem, you see. There's the big hiccup now. Maybe you might squeeze a Kia Sportage into your budget, just about. It'll be the 1.7 CDTI one, the diesel one. It's not very pokey, but it's really economical. The car itself is actually quite comfortable as well. Hyundai do the iX35, that's the equivalent version of it, but I didn't really like that version of it that year we're looking at. Toyota was the other one I was thinking of. Nissan Qashqai, maybe. Not a great car to drive either, but it will be very reliable. You're going to have to go back a few years. You're going to have to look at the Japanese and the Koreans. There was very little SUV action under 10k of that vintage from the European boys. And anyway, you're going to get an older diesel engine now as well. Does it have to be an SUV? Because you're not getting like a Skoda Octavia or something like that. Stuart says, what would you recommend as a good powerful car and economy? What would you recommend as a good powerful car and economy? Come back to that one, Stuart. Liam Cotter, what Future Classic and 04 Mini Cooper S? Yes, there you go. Now 04 is not really old, just bear that in mind, which is straight off the mark. 2004, I know they looked like the old minis. That's because they only stopped making them in like 2002 or something. But yeah, that's not very old. John Austin says a Fiat Coupe 20 valve turbo, look absolutely gorgeous, stupid looking car but brilliant looking car at the same time. It's a weird car, you either love it or you hate it, but the 20 valve turbo is a superb machine, and ultimately 100% reliable. I've never come across a 20 valve turbo Fiat engine in pieces, and they are treated dreadfully. So anyway, Numo M says, why do car manufacturers detune their cars like the 520 diesel versus the 518 diesel, or the CLS 250 diesel versus the 220 diesel? Is it lower emissions? Why is engine displacement the same? It is to lower emissions. It will be the first thing. So people buy cars for like normal bulk sales, forgetting us people who actually like to drive, right? So if you're in that category where you really like to drive, the reason you buy a car is completely different from the reason general public buys cars. So the general public buys a car for two reasons. You've got tax in Ireland, which people come in and go, how much the tax on that, right? It doesn't matter what size the engine is, just how much of the tax, right? So you got tax, you've got fuel economy, which is another big bear. Insurance somewhat plays a factor in the choice of cars, but not really. It's mostly tax and fuel economy. So if you've got those two things, so tax is donated by the CO2 emissions, and fuel economy also plays a factor in the CO2 emissions. So if you want to make a car more fuel efficient, you need to lower down the horsepower. You need to restrict how often the turbo comes on and all that kind of nonsense. It's what we would class as detuning. What they would class as actually tuning the car. You're tuning it to do a certain job, which is why when they're chipped, you suddenly go from 180 brake horsepower to 240 brake horsepower easily. So a lot of them are the same. I've seen 520 diesels that are tuned down to 180 horsepower get 280 horsepower from them when they're tuned up. But it does make black smoke. It will blow your engine out. So there is an element of that goes on, but it is definitely down to emissions and fuel economy will be the two biggest factors behind it. Powell says, hi Bob, have you seen the last episode of Grand Tour about the Mondeo? I did, yes I did. Does the Mondeo really end its life? Sales volume in the UK dropped over 10 times since 94. That's, well, Ford haven't really done a good job at updating the Mondeo over time. That segment of the market is very stagnant. Ford Europe are in deep trouble and have been cutting jobs and cutting everything for quite some time now. Even the Irish jobs, there's 30 jobs on a Cork for Ford Ireland that are under threat at the moment. They want to run Ford from the UK for Ireland, so that's going to be a massive change here for dealerships. It's going to be a massive change of supply chain. When every other car company is pulling out of the UK, Ford is trying to pull itself back into the UK because the Dagenham plant is there, and that's what's really driving that. So it's a difficult place for Ford to be, and it's also very difficult operations for Mondeo to be. And Ford have been caught on the hop with their electric offering. They don't really have one. I know they bought Rivian, but that's dreamland stuff. Rivian is like Tesla. It's out there dreaming that they're going to be a big electric car. So there's a lot going on in that segment for Ford, and Ford have been in trouble for a while now, even though I was only down a couple of weeks ago in Morocco with them testing the Ford Raptor, which is an amazing vehicle, but it's really out of place. What we're looking for now, we need an electric one, and it's just a 2-litre diesel, so we're back to square one. But that's kind of where Ford is in that kind of troubled zone at the moment. But the Mondeo, yeah, they will cut it. They cut all saloons in the US. Everything has gone out there. They're just going to make the Ford 150 now. Oh, we're just going to make SUVs now for the moment. And that's all they're really going to concentrate on. You'll find the same will start to happen here in Europe, as that market has been driven here quite heavily. But they won't be able to do it without their European operations being forefront. That's where they're into trouble, is that they just don't have the money to continue supporting all of those jobs. Particularly when you get new people in who are rationalising the company. It's a great word. We're going to rationalise the company, which means we're actually going to sack people. That's really what that means. And the people who are left are going to do several jobs rather than just one job anymore. Talon is looking for a RAV4, like I say, or a cash guy. He doesn't mind about the year. I would stay out of French brands under that budget. You're getting aged engines in there, and French engines don't tend to age very well. Sorry if you own a French car or you're a French car company. I know a lot of dealers who watch this Sunday service every week as well, and I try not to insult you all, but I'm afraid the old French cars don't go as far. Neither do German cars, by the way. Volkswagen engines used to have a lovely reputation once upon a time of reaching 100,000 kilometres and instantly burning oil. It's like a switch went off inside the engine. 100,000 kilometres, click, and all of a sudden there's blue smoke coming out the back of the car. Inspiron says, will Skoda be bringing out their version of the T-Cross as VW version is too dear at 23,000 on the road? Unfortunately, prices of cars in Ireland are going to continue to go up. You will see more price rises between now and September, not less. It is WLTP filtering through. As WLTP actually came out, I think 3 years ago or 2 years ago. I don't remember, 2 or 3 years ago. They deferred the price rises for years. So they deferred the price. So the price went up a little bit every single year. But now we're starting to see the real prices come through, like that, Audi A1. I have in a video there is €40,000. That's not cheap no matter what way you look. And 23 grand on the road for T-Cross, it's gorgeous, but 23 grand on the road is a bit pricey. Skoda, if they bring one out, will be very similar priced. I haven't seen one that they're looking at. We're all waiting for the Volkswagen ID, to be honest with you. Is all anybody really wants at the moment. But the T-Cross is a lovely car. I don't think there will be probably a Skoda version of it, because everything that Volkswagen do, Skoda follow at the moment, which will be eventually the demise of Skoda. I think Skoda are on a losing streak on that end to just continually follow on whatever Volkswagen says we do. Jump through hoops. Because I love that Kodiaq out there, but I fear that might be the last time we see something truly unique from Skoda. Where was it? Talon says, actually, yeah, the Octavia might be nice. Just wanting something high for herself and young lad. Yeah, it depends what you want to get into. If you want to get in the back, it's the budget is the problem. The 10 grand is where it's going to be restricted, because all these SUVs that have come out in the last few years, have really only come out in the last 4 or 5 years, and it won't have pushed far enough down into the market to kind of be included into your budget. Now, if you can do 10 grand plus a loan or plus a bit of PCP or something and make it up to 15 grand, you probably open up your options a bit better. I find Octavia and Superb are really good, honest, reliable cars. They seem to go very well. If you buy an automatic or DSG one, you just have total comfort. And I prefer them myself than getting the kids in and out of the back of the SUVs. SUVs, by their nature, tend to be super minis that are up on stilts. And that means that their doors are actually small in comparison to the ones you get in the Estate. I tend to recommend Estate for family as much as possible, like the Octavia Estate or a Skoda Superb Estate. You really want room. The doors are bigger, easier access. Yeah, you have to bend down a little bit further, but you soon get over that because kids will be like that to be walking. And then they won't care about getting in and out of cars. Cross has just announced that the Tesla Model 3 has a tow rating of 910 kgs. That's not bad. It's just under a ton, in case you're wondering what that converts to. Just about a ton, which is pretty good. Now, I don't know. I've never seen one tow. I'd love to have a go at it and see what it's like. Now, I haven't driven a Model 3 either. I'm still waiting for them to get themselves together and start getting the stuff done properly when it comes to press cars. I will be testing Model S and the Model X later on in the year, but like at this stage they're old cars, so test them. Nuno Aim is suggesting a VW Tiguan, which is the Skoda. There you have a Skoda, but now Tiguan, the Tiguan you'd be after would be an older one. Under 10 grand is the problem. That's really because those SUVs are fetching a bit of money, so they tend to be straying over the 10 grand quite regularly. John Carney is here. Hi Bob, wife has a Skoda Fabia Estate. It's a 1.6 diesel and we were thinking of a change. Would hold on to it for another few years. It does about 30,000 kilometers a year. What would you recommend? I would, if I was you, hold on to it until 2020. Now there's a reason why I say that is because right now we're at a crossover point where there's a jockload of electric cars coming at us, but they can't get enough batteries. And there's a load of stuff that's happening within our own market and within the UK market that's centering around Brexit. So we won't really know what's going to happen until after October with Brexit, and that puts us into the 2020 buy-in circle. So, but if I was going for 30,000 kilometers a year, I would really start looking at an electric car because they're getting up that level, but we're not quite there. You're still looking at Hyundai Kona, and you're still looking, that's the range thing. Kia have a couple of ones on the way as well. I will be testing them later on the year. They're the ones that are able to do that kind of range, but that's fairly big money now when you're looking at electric cars. They're not cheap. They're definitely not the cheapest cars you can buy at the moment. You could look at the current Fabia. There's a couple of run-out ones, and I'll be testing a Monte Carlo one later on in the year, but now they're petrol ones. They tend to be all petrol ones these days rather than diesels. If you're particularly looking for diesel, I mean, if you're claiming the VAT back, you have to get a diesel, right? So you can't claim the VAT back off petrol or electric, unfortunately, because our government is just completely short-sighted. It has no brains whatsoever when it comes to the tax system benefiting the general public. Sorry, don't make me rant now. I'm going to rant now. But you could look at another Fabia, the newer version of the same car, or you could go into something like a VW Polo. If you're looking to keep around that size, the Fabia Estate's actually quite a big car inside. Sorry, little sip of water there. Powell says there's no chance for Mondeo Mark 6. I don't think it was even on the design feature. The last time I did any sort of work with Ford, I don't mean work with Ford, but the last time I was talking to Ford designers of any kind, there wasn't even a mention of a Mondeo anything on the way. That's not to say it'll die out entirely, but I just think that Ford are making some very strange moves in their range. It's because it's a big global company and they're kind of a standalone company, and it's hard for them to kind of gather together everything in one go, because you got Ford America that does its own thing and Ford Europe that does its own thing, but then you also have Ford Australasia and Ford Asia and those kind of ones that are doing their own thing. They've got different ranges. There are quite a lot of cars in the Ford range, ones that they come out over in the US that don't come out over here, even though they promised global cars at one point. They never really did it. i3 will definitely be a collectible. No other car on the road built like it. BMW given up on full CFRP, so it's possibly the next i8 will be the first last mass market vehicle on the road. You're probably right. Yeah, one of the first, the Generation 1 Nissan Leaf will be a collector's item as well, but not because of what you think it is. It'll be like a museum piece. We look back and go, my God, that's where it all started. Look how crap it is now. But i3, yeah, the i3 is brilliant to make. The dashboard's made out of donkey jackets. There's all kinds of weird materials used. 80% of the car can either be recycled or is made from recycled materials already. So there's a lot of stuff going on in there. Just zoom back up there. I jumped over sort of stuff. Engineering detail is ridiculous. They have carbon fibre and aluminium friction stir welders. Yeah, technique borrowed from aerospace industry. You can root around. It doesn't take very long to find it underneath the. When you open the doors and look down, you immediately see the carbon fibre tub you're sitting in. Like, it's a cool car, really, really cool car. So if you can get a Rex engine one, the original ones that were put out, which came with a range extender engine, a little BMW motorbike engine put into the boot. I think they mounted that upside down, if memory serves. And basically just driving till the batteries are empty, and then the motorbike engine cuts in and charges the battery unless you drive on as well. It's deadly, never stops. 2014 4.2 A8 Quattro thoughts. If you have a bank balance to match it there, Stuart, you can probably get away with that. You're definitely going to need it because it absolutely savages fuel. And the front of the Audi Quattro system on the old 2014 A8s gave a lot of trouble, so it ended up being a two-wheel drive quite a lot. But it's a good car, yeah. Maminsk is here. Maminsk. Hello, Bob. Is there a reason other than price gouging that BMW parts cost 2 to 4 times the price of a Honda or Ford parts? Isn't a brake disc essentially the same across all three brands? No, not really. It's not the same across all three brands. So brake discs tend to be quite unique to the car. So like a brake disc from a 3 Series tends not to fit the brake disc from a 5 Series and so on, and you can't take a 3 Series brake disc and put it onto a Ford Mondeo or whatever. So they can make up their own prices. The discs are unique. BMW has notoriously for years been expensive to service. It's always been hanging around. Their service technicians charge quite a lot and their parts can be very expensive. And it's always been that way. And anyone I've ever asked BMW about that is just, well, that's the way it is. That's the way they've always been. So that's the way they are. Servicing is something you can learn to do yourself. You can save an absolute jockload if you learn to do the servicing on your own and putting in brake discs and everything else. You can buy stuff online. You just buy the parts yourself. The labour comes onto your own. Anyone who has 2 cars has absolutely no excuse not to learn how to service a car, because if you break it, well, you got another car out the front. But it's definitely worth learning to do that yourself. But the parts are all different. Honda are a mass producer. Sometimes a lot of these car companies produce a lot of the parts themselves. Other car companies buy them in. BMW have always been very finicky in what parts they will use and how they're supplied to the dealership. So they do charge a premium. Yep. But people who buy BMWs tend to be premium buyers. Not so much anymore. The market demographic has changed for BMW a lot. That's why they had sterling sales here as well, to compete with the English market. Dealers make up a lot of that price difference. BMW dealers need to pay for the fancy premises and free pastries. Says Cross, you're dead right. The dealers charge whatever they want when it comes to servicing. So the parts get it. So general market information. If something costs you 50 quid, you sell it for 100 quid. That's how it works. So you make 50 quid profit. Now, if you're servicing, you're putting the parts in, you charge €75 for the part plus service costs, which are 2 hours at 100 quid an hour, which is 275 quid, parts included. So it's very easy to rack up a couple of hundred quid. And a brake disc, good God, brake discs are so easy to fix, lads. You should be doing this yourself. Really, honestly, brake discs are one of the simplest things to change. Brake pads are harder to change than brake discs now. Just thought I'd tell you that. It's messy, it takes a while, but it's not difficult if you do it logically and straightforward, and you do it there with a mechanic beside you. A friend of yours, someone who knows mechanics, and put it all back together, you'll have no problem whatsoever. It shouldn't be that hard to do it yourself. You just got to learn to do it, and you can save thousands, and I mean thousands, on servicing if you learn to do it on your own. Eric Rochford has joined the gang. Afternoon all, late getting here today. Loved the mini videos during the week. I did too. I really enjoyed trundling across the UK like that. It was a great experience. Liverpool is gorgeous. God almighty, Liverpool is lovely. The people are so nice. The whole football stadium was open. That was the night they played Barcelona and won 4-0. We're in a restaurant and all the guys behind the counter cooking our food were watching the match. It was great crack. Really good crack. Enjoyed that. Hellhound, that's a good name. Hey up, Bob. Do you know if VAG are going to bring out a similar version to the Golf GTE, e.g. Polo, Fabia, Leon, etc. as 200 horsepower city car is just not needed? I would imagine that Volkswagen right now are pulling their hair out because they've got fines, they've got money set aside to pay things where they may have been working with BMW and Mercedes, and there's fines and there's all sorts of stuff going on in the background we don't hear about. There's the race for electric cars right now. This phenomenal drive it down your neck race for electric cars, which seems to be driven by the car companies. When in actual fact, on the ground, look at car sales, most people are still buying diesel and petrols. The mix has changed. It's no longer 90% diesels. Now it's like 50%, 60% diesel, and the rest is petrol. And then there's a small fraction of that, like 2.5% of the market that's electric. So it's hard to see where the market's actually going to go. But right now, I can't imagine, because if you take the, what was the car I was driving recently there? Like a Renault Zoe or something? Anyway, one of those electric cars. The i3S. I was driving the i3S 2 weeks ago. That has a 0 to 60 time, which is faster than the Golf GTE by miles. And I drove that in the middle of the night up to Dublin Airport, and drove it from here, full charge, brought up to Dublin, still had half a tank in it, and I wasn't hanging about. I wasn't doing no normal speed limits there because I was in a hurry. But the i3 is brilliant. So electric cars are all the way. So I can't imagine there be any market hellhound for another GTE to come out of the Golf range. I think they'd be lucky to get out with just a diesel Golf and an electric Golf or a petrol Golf. I'd say that's where it's going to go. There's about 2,000 birds out land in my backyard. I see the swallows are back as well. That's great to see. Brilliant. I love to see the swallows back. It means it's summer. They followed me up from Morocco. Cross says the smaller the replacement for the GTE will be the ID3. That's smaller than the Golf on the outside, but Passat size on the interior. Bigger than the Polo, and ID3 pre-orders have started. First deliveries in 2020, probably would have been a 201 reg, which will be next year. No one really has driven the final version of the i3. No one has driven any part of it. I know Robert Llewellyn and all those kind of guys did some preamble stuff, but those cars didn't even have dashboards. I did nothing in them. It was just a drivetrain. And they're only testy drivetrains, which means they're not even the final product yet. So we're at a point where there's an awful lot of build up to this ID. Volkswagen will probably deliver. There'll be an awful lot of people who will try and buy it up front, and I'm sure it'll be good for the market, but I'm not too sure whether we should put so much emphasis on Volkswagen. Just a quick mention, if you're still watching at the moment, click the like button, is always good. Beneath this, there is a list of ways to support this channel, and it really is, the support is phenomenal, but I really do appreciate the support. It's vital to keep the channel moving forward. Look, I can't even afford to shave, for God's sake. No. Underneath there's a list for PayPal, Patreon, and there's also an Amazon store, which Amazon affiliates asked me to sign up with them. It looked good. It means I can list out products that I have, that I've used, and if you're going to buy them through the Amazon link down below, it's just an affiliate program. It's not going to cost you any more to buy the product. You just buy it if you want it. It goes to a storefront, and I get a little tiny cut from Amazon for doing that. So, and there's also a list of t-shirts and things down below. So any support you can give is brilliant. PayPal is hugely appreciated. Thank you very much. But anything you can give is always good. Or Patreon, if you want to do it that way. I think Patreon's going to close later on the year. I don't know. I heard it was going to close. Maybe I'm wrong. John Austin. Will I lose money getting my leased car serviced by an independent service company? I'm looking at handing back the car at the end of the lease. Yes, you will. If the lease company does not approve of the person you're getting it serviced by, they will penalise you to get out of the lease because you have broken your lease agreement. So always bear in mind, for anybody who's looking at leasing or PCP or car finance or any of these things, there is a 50-page document that comes with that. You need to read that. I know that may seem like a really pedantic thing to do, but you need to read that, because straying outside of any of the deals or agreements or anything else that you've got going on with that company, no matter how far, how little, or how much you've strayed outside of it, is still straying outside of you, still breaking the rules. When you break the rules, boom, they will catch you. If they want to catch you, they will catch you. Multiple people across the country have been emailing me about PCP deals and not being able to get out of them. not being able to renew them, being penalised by dealerships. This is not one particular brand or any particular brand. This is just groups that are coming at me going, I can't get out. And they've broken the rules because they broke the rules. That's why they can't get out of their PCP the way they thought they were going to get out. So it's not that straightforward. But yes, if you want to stray outside your lease agreement, you need to contact your leasing company. Say, I want this guy to service my car. Is that okay? If they approve, then fine. If they don't approve, don't come crying to them. Anyway. Cross says there are 3 packs announced for the ID, which is 45 kilowatt, around 330 kilometers, 58 kilowatt, 420 kilometers. That's the one you want. That's the one you want. Don't come crying to me if you buy the 45 kilowatt one. You can go so far. And 77 kilowatt, 550 kilometers WLTP. I would go the mid-range of those. I think 420 kilometers is quite a usable amount of room. That's similar kind of mileage to a Hyundai Kona, of which I drove all the way to Galway, not all the way back. And only did a little tiny charge in the middle of it because I felt range anxiety and I didn't want to feel it. So go for the middle one. Jeff has landed. Who makes more reliable automatic transmissions, J-Tow or Jetrag? Are Mitsubishi electric cars more reliable than Tesla? There's no real reliability issues with electric cars, other than the actual inner of the car itself rattling or falling apart or something like that. Electric cars are so basic inside. I mean, the actual motor end of it is so basic. There isn't a whole lot that goes wrong. There's really only one moving part in the whole car, really, because the engine is just connected almost directly to a kind of sort of a torque converter kind of thing, and then into a drivetrain. So you're straight into kind of a drive shaft that's connected straight to the axles, and away she goes. So there's no gearboxes or clutches or any of that stuff that goes wrong. So when it comes to reliability, there isn't really anything to go wrong because there's no gearbox in an electric car. So when you look at Mitsubishi electric cars or Tesla electric cars, there's very little going to happen anyway. A Mitsubishi full electric is a PHEV is what they do. If you're looking at which is reliable automatic transmission, they're both the same, depends on how they're treated. There's some differences. Some of them are wet transmissions, some of them are dry transmissions. There's been a few problems over the years, but very little that's going to disable your car. Now, American transmissions are different. If you're looking at American stuff over there, a lot of those transmissions, because they just make the cheapest one they can find, then you got a problem. They can go wrong. Mainly because they sit in 4th or 5th gear the whole time while they're driving along, whereas over here we tend to flip through gears. Using it will keep it working for longer. So there isn't really a more reliable one transmission over the other, just different kinds of transmissions. And electric cars don't have transmissions at all. Where'd I go there? Oh yeah, I meant less powerful, no stronger. Cross says the Golf is potentially coming to an end soon. I know, with the next version being the last development. That may mean VW cut down a number of variants. GTD gone, GTE might be on the block. Yes and no. These things tend to flip over. It depends on the development cycle. So the development cycle for most cars is like 5 years. I talked to James in Mini. He's an Irish guy. He's developing the transmission systems and engineering systems for the Mini E or E-Mini. I don't think they've decided which one they're going to call it, but Mini E is what I'm going with anyway. He's done that, that started 4 years ago. So for the last 4 years they've been developing electric transmission for the car and batteries and problems, and it's looking like they're going to do something this September or October. We've seen the car, no one's driven it, and they're talking about very great fun. It's going to be great fun. So they always talk about how fun it is. They're always fun, but whether we can get all the way through to the final and make sure the Mini actually works, and it's there's no front trunk, I know that. There is a boot in the back. It is going to look like a Mini from the outside. There's a few things I know about it, but I don't know what it's like to drive. Where Volkswagen, I'm not sure what they're going to do next. Nobody knows, because Volkswagen is really cutting corners at the moment to save money. That's what's going on. They have so many brands, and none of them really made a lot of money over the years because they just have so many cars. But it's still driving the German economy forward, so they've got to do something. Powell says, do you have also in Ireland car sharing services? No, not really. It's very popular since a couple of years in Poland. Hundreds of Astras and Clios parked in big cities, which can be open an app and rent for minutes. We don't. It has been talked about. A lot of these things have been talked about. We've got nobody in the government who has any sort of brain whatsoever in their mind to actually drive any of this forward, is the problem. There is a couple of simple services like GoCar, which is a rental, very short-term rental system. But that's not really car sharing. That is still car rental, just on a short term. There is a couple of other yokes on the way, but the problem we always have is, as always, the insurance cabal that we have in this country, the conglomerate that work together very, very carefully, meet in hotels quite regularly and set and fix prices all they want, and no one seems to give a crap whether they do that or not, but yet they do it every day. Having said that, that's not allegedly, by the way, that's exactly what I know is going on. What's going to happen next is the car sharing service, which would be the ideal, of course, is for me to own a car and I make money from renting the car out when it's not in use. So I drive to work, I leave it outside work, you pick it up from my work and you drive it to your work, and it's this car lending sharing service. That would be ideal, but I don't know if that's ever going to happen because we're not very good at these sort of things, and we always see the bad in people. That's probably the big one. Cross says we have a couple of services, Go Car being one, about half of EV Toyotas as their Yuko hybrid car sharing, UFO drivers doing EV only sharing, Tesla, Kona, iPace, etc. If anyone's considering an EV, borrowing 148 hours from a car sharing service is a great option to figure out what suits their daily driving. That is true. That is actually a really good idea, is if you can get a car rental company that'll rent you an electric car for 48 hours and just drive it. Just drive it till the battery starts to run out and see what you feel about it then. But don't focus on the range. Focus on what it's like to drive, because the range is the range. That's the same as a petrol car. It still has a range. One girl said to me, I'd never buy an electric car. What if I forgot to charge it? And I said to her, have you ever forgotten to put petrol in your car? She goes, no. I go, well, then why are you going to forget to charge it? It's a very real fear people have. You know, if you come home from work, you close the door, you go inside, you sit down there for 2 or 3 hours, have your dinner, and then fall asleep, and then go to bed, and you get up the next day, and you did actually forget to plug it in. You know, it is a very real thing that could happen, I suppose, but it would be in a minority of stuff. Nuno M says, is there a short-term insurance here in Ireland? 1 day, 1 week, 1 month? It's only from the hire company. So if you want to hire a car from Dublin Airport or whatever, the hire company will give you insurance to cover your time with the car. You can also buy your own insurance. If you've already insured with a car, you can buy extra insurance or travel insurance or insurance on a rental car yourself from your own car company. You can get your own insurance. So there is technically 1 day, 1 week, 1 month insurance should you want it, which is pretty good. If you just landed here, which I see there's a lot more people watching now than it was a minute ago, don't be afraid of asking questions. You can ask questions. I will get around to all your answers as best I can. But you can also support the channel. It'd be great if you click the like button while you're here. You can support the channel multiple ways. It is all in the comments down below. So if I get to answer your question, if I can answer your question, I will answer your question. I got hundreds of bloody questions by email. I'm terribly sorry if I haven't got around to it. One thing I do want to announce on the channel today is if you're interested and you're a video editor, I want you to get in touch with me. I'd love to talk to someone about taking over the editing of the videos. Not the filming part, not really. If you can film, great. If you're in Portlaoise area, anywhere within the Laois region, and you want to come help film, great, that'd be good as well, but it's not unnecessary. Really what the problem is at the moment is I can film a lot of videos, but editing a lot of videos takes hours. I mean, it takes up to 4 or 5 hours to edit a video, particularly if it's a travel video or a big video of any kind. It can be 4, 5, 6 hours sometimes. Which means there's a day of filming and there's a day of editing on the same video. Maybe 2 days of editing. If there's a lot of voiceovers, a lot of technical stuff, a lot of stuff like that Ford Raptor video, that took 3 days to edit that video, put it together, get the footage, put it all down. So if you're an editor, a video editor of some sort, or you know a video editor who's looking to kind of get into the whole scheme of things and want to learn, not even looking for learners, I'm looking for experienced people as well who can get through it, and you think you're really good, get in touch with me. BobFlav@thenextgear.com. Just get some sort of show reel together. I don't care who you've worked for. I just like to see what way you edit videos or how you edit videos, whether it's your videos or someone else's videos. Just get in touch with that and leave messages wherever I am. You'll find me on Instagram, find me on everywhere. Actually, all the links are down below, but here on YouTube you can do it as well. Leave a comment if you want, send me an email, bobflav@thenextgear.com, whatever you want to do. But very important, if we can do it, then I can pump out even more videos, and then there must be some way we can do some sort of profit share thing or something. I don't know, something like that. We figure it out anyway along the way. Come up with ideas. I'd like to do something different, something unusual. I'm not looking for traditional. I want something different. Annie McAfee has just joined. Forgive me for I have sinned. Father B. Oh yeah, Father B. Yeah. I'm at work between runs at the moment. How dare you? You're at work driving buses. Get in here and start moderating these comments. I'm only kidding. Welcome Annie McAfee, who has been a great communicator over the last few months. Peter Dolan. Hi Bob. Any tips on a clear coat maintenance? A 2-year-old Golf and front bumper clear coat starting to peel. Seems very early in cars with life issue and tips for preventing further peeling. So if it's on the front bumper, I'd have a problem. If it's only on the bumper, right? So if the bonnet has not got any of this clear coat peeling, or there's nowhere else in the car, it's literally on the front bumper part of your car, then there's something wrong with the bumper. There's something wrong with the clear coat initially, or the way it's been sealed underneath. If you see it in other places on your car, there's something, because the whole car gets painted on the same day. So through a factory, here's how it works, right? The car is assembled, and as it goes through the paint room, it's actually finished. So the whole car is painted at once. They don't paint the bumper separately. It all gets put on the car, then it's painted. So if the paint is peeling in other places on the car, then there's something really wrong with the car, the whole car, not just the front bumper. Now, if it's only happening in the front bumper, or only happening in one particular spot around the front of the car, it may be that some sort of fungus has gotten underneath the paint. You might also find a little bit of water has got underneath the paint somewhere and is lifted and starting to peel off the clear coat. If there's any scratches or marks that start to cut at the peel coat, or a paint coat, and you find that that's starting to peel in half, that's where that'll start to peel. And then you find someone touch it with their fingers and they'll peel it, and it's like peeling skin. So says it is solely on the bumper. Then it could just be a problem with the bumper, or you may have gotten a little bit of damage which started to peel, then the peel has gone all over the place. The only thing you can do with the whole lot is sand it down and respray it. That is the only way you can do it. It's not just a matter of putting a clear coat lacquer over the top. You'll have to get all of the bits off. The best way to do it, of course, is dip the whole thing from start to finish, but that can be very expensive. You would take off the bumper, you would sand the entire thing down with, say, P1000 grit, very light grit. Put down an undercoat over the top of that, then overspray the rest of the colour. Just the area you're talking about now, not the whole bumper, just the bad area. But you need it flat, you need it properly sanded out. It can be a bit of a faff on a 2-year-old car. It seems very young for paintwork to be going to me, a 2-year-old. It just seems very, very young. I'd be back in the dealership complaining about that, because the car be under warranty. Paint isn't necessarily under warranty, but there is a 10-year corrosion warranty on your car. Obviously, no matter what the car is, generally most people give you a 10-year warranty on that. So there must be something they can do about it. I'll be back in the dealership giving out stink about that one. But if it failed and the dealer would do nothing for you, you can get paint, coat match, spray match, and start sanding it all down and get it working that way. That's your only other option out, I'm afraid, Peter. Nuno M says, saving up for 2015 facelift 640 diesel Grand Coupe 4-door, but VRT is 8k. Oh my God, it's 8k. Lads, VRT, you should be... I don't know how the whole of Ireland is not standing up in front of government offices throwing sticks at the government for walking out because of VRT. VRT is the greatest rip-off that ever happened. I don't know why he's all paid. You shouldn't have to pay it. It's double taxation. You still all do. And then they go, but second-hand cars will be devalued. I don't care. It's still a rip-off. It's a complete rip-off. The problem for the car companies, they're not thinking of the next 3 or 4 years. They're only thinking of the next 6 months. They only think of targets beyond, we have to get to our 6 months. Oh, what about second half of the year to get to that part as well? Do you know what's really happening behind the scenes? All of the people are going to England to buy their cars because they don't pay VRT, and because they don't pay over there, and because the exchange rate is favourable. Now, I'm telling you, I see the end of all of the car industry in Ireland in sight. I can tell you. And dealerships will start to close because they cannot continue to pay VRT at the rate we're paying it right now and expect to have people just, yeah, sure, of course I'll pay that, yeah. €8,000 on a 2015 car. And that's just a VRT. You're mad. You're absolutely mad. I'd spend $4,000 on a top end bicycle and do that. I've got an interesting video coming up actually about electric scooters and electric transport. The final mile stuff. You'd see, it's kind of funny. Mr. Sin says hi from Portlaoise. Hello from Portlaoise. I am there too. Peter Dolan. Hi, Bob. Yeah, sorry, I read that one already. Lacquer peel. Do what I do and start to embrace the rat look. A duck took a dump on my roof and boot lid at work burnt through in the summer heat. I hate ducks when they do that. Duck poo is one of the worst. Bird poo is pretty bad as well. There's a lot of acid in both those kind of poos that come out. But ducks, oh man, the stuff that they put out is just tear a hole. Swans as well. If you get swan crap on your car, lads, it changes the colour of your car in a blink of an eye permanently, like make it go white. Bob, what is your secret diet that you're so thin and good looking? I wish I was thin. I've put on 5 kgs since last Christmas. I haven't ran half as much and I haven't cycled a single beat this year, so I haven't done anything. It's a diet of wine and vegetarianism. No, well, I'm not even vegetarian much anymore either. I do eat meat here and there. Drink a lot of wine and a lot of beer. That usually preserves you pretty well, in fairness. But I am getting old. I feel it every single day of my life now. No, I don't. A single stone chip and a pressure washer, you can get the bad lacquer peel. Sadly, anything on leading edges, manufacturers like to turn around and say it was just this or refuse to help. It's true. Any sort of cuts or marks or bang, you can be just unlucky. Remember, my lay-on always looked a bit sad from time. I always thought it got one less coat of paint on it than everybody else did. But it's actually okay. It's holding up pretty well, although it's a little bit crashed. Just a little bit. I didn't crash it, I crashed it, but it's okay. We can live with that. We can gloss over that because no one was hurt and the car did its job properly and it's still in one piece, still going, no problem. Just needs a bit of work now. I might sell it. Joe Lyons. It's all about the process, Bob. Storyboard, EDL, content script, the fun stuff, fancy effects are last, mind you. It reverts to storyboard to get it right, consistency, and you're onto a winner. Best thing to do is get a template and branding nailed and then follow the same process, save so much work and makes a professional product at the end of the day. Yeah, I know the idea behind storyboards and working together and being cohesive and trying to work as a team or work out what you want to do and all that. But I can churn out videos that they can be edited very quickly when I film them myself. So if I film a film, I know what I'm editing at the end. I film like an editor. So I film to edit. And that makes life fairly easy for an editor. But the problem is, if I could just get on with the creation of videos, just get on with filming the things, I could actually film a lot more videos if I didn't have to edit them all. The problem is the editing. The editing is the thing where you have to stop, sit down, pay attention, click this, do that, correct sound, color correct stuff. And I do all that, I don't mind. But it means that I have to, like for the last 19, 20 days, I haven't had a day off. And I mean, I haven't had a day where I don't do some work towards something. Even last Sunday, I didn't do a Sunday service. I edited a video instead. so it's constantly, the volume of stuff that I can put out is hampered by the fact that I can't get enough time to edit stuff. And plus I edit other people's videos. So I have to make other videos for other companies. And that means that that's another day of editing in there somewhere. So it's hard to fit it all together. But I just think it could be very profitable if I was to get, not profitable, but beneficial if we could do more videos and have an editor at the other end of it. The formula is there. Like the formula, the last 6 months of videos now have been following a particular formula, and it works. It works. People watch the videos. It's very good. And like viewership is up, subscribers are up, everything's going up in the green. Not fast enough, but it's going up, I'll say. Anyway, McPhee says reference 5k. Bear in mind that muscle weighs more than fat. Most rugby players and BMI charts are classed as clinically obese. It's true. I know a few rugby players. Actually, talking to Luke Fitzgerald next week, another rugby player. And yeah, they do look wrong, but they're actually really good. I have actually just gained weight because I've been eating too much and not exercising enough. I would normally get a run in on a Sunday morning. I was off today, tearing around car boot sales, but the weight thing is just a matter of if I went back exercising properly like I should be doing. I just haven't had time, honest to God. I've ran in Morocco. I'm going to Paris next week. I hope I get the chance to run there as well. And I'm trying to fit in some runs here in Ireland, but I'm getting up in the morning and going to work, and I'm staying in work till 8 or 9 o'clock at night. You know, it's like that every time. So it's a long day. Don't become YouTubers, kids. Honest to God, it's not good for you. Peter Dolan says, Yes, I suspect it may be a stone chip scenario that started to appeal. Just live with it, I'm afraid. You can, yeah. Or you can do it. I have no problem doing some paint matching and go and get it done. Do it yourself, like. It's not that hard. Honest to God, it's a lot easier. You think painting is actually not that hard. But the only problem is just do it. Try and keep the dust at bay. A lot of people spray and there's dust in the air and you get those little tiny dots in your paintwork all the way through. Editing is time consuming. It is, Joe. I'm telling you. It is, yeah. When it's not your sole job, it is, yeah, for sure. Jeff retracted a message. Then went, is there much difference between premium and mid-range tyres? Now that's a tough question. Tyres are about as sexy now as grass. You know, there's nothing good to say about them, to be honest with you. There's cheap tyres and there's expensive tyres. And there's things in between those two that are actually pretty good and affordable things. Generally speaking, the more expensive the tyre, the more rubber has gone in and the more development. So like Continental tyres, Dunlop, even Nankang, and in those kind of mainstream brand ones have done the development. So they developed a tyre, they spend a year putting it together to try and make the best tyre they can, then they put it in the market and it ends up being 150 quid a corner or something. You kind of go, wow, that sounds expensive. But if you, in that moment, that single moment where you have to hit the brakes at its hardest, and you know you're trying to get away from an accident, you want to be able to steer through the corner, you hit the brakes really hard, it's at that moment where tyres just pay their weight. They really do. There are other situations where you spend a whole year driving around on really expensive tyres and you did nothing. It did nothing. So, you know, and it feels like a waste. Generally, tyres are a sort of a stress buy. You wait until there's no tread left on it, then you buy a new tyre because you're going to fail the NCT if you don't. But there isn't. Premium tyres have specific purposes. So premium tyres tend to be ones that will run hotter and maintain their structural integrity very well. So like race tyres get phenomenally hot when they're going around a track. Whereas normal tyres, mid-range tyres, will put up with a few laps around a track, but actually when you come back you'll find your tyres are either bald or they'll blow out as you're driving around. So get what you can afford, but try and get a little bit better than like the cheapest thing you're offered when you walk into a door. So you go into a tyre place, you walk in, your man goes, yeah, I have tyres for them, and he rolls out some sort of a sucky, wanky thingamajig from 25 years ago, and you kind of go, I never heard of that yoke. And you put that in your car. It's going to be cheap, but you're going to get the response of cheap. Grip will be less. You know, when you hit the brakes, you're not going to be able to brake as hard as you were before. You know, there's all kinds of things happen. So sometimes it's worth kind of paying for that little bit more, little bit that you want. Do your research. Check out which one it is. Continental are very good. Dunlop are very good. There's a good few tyres out there that are really, really good. Pirelli make really good tyres as well. There's a few, like a good few. So, yeah, there is a bit of a difference. Not a massive difference, but there is a bit of a difference. The difference between €100 a corner and €200 a corner is actually quite dramatic. There's a difference in handling there can be massive between the two of them. But the difference between a €50 tyre and a €55 tyre, nothing. Andy McPhee says, always police the likes of the front bumper stone chips and use it at the very least. Touch up a colour match with pre-mixed lacquer to cover up chip and seal off the risk of peeling from it. Will you, for God's sake, don't buy a paintbrush version of the touch-up paints. They don't work. They're crap. They leave streaky lines all over the place. If you don't do it exactly right, they leave terrible lines all over the place. Don't do them. Always buy a spray can one. Dealers will get this mixed for you. You can get it mixed in places. In Portlaoise for Bradshaw's, for instance, they mix paint. They'll actually mix to the exact colour and match of your car, and they'll do it in a spray can form. So it's much better. Spray cans give you much more even coverage and much more control than any of those brushes. So never buy the brush one to brush on over top, even on a little tiny stone chip. They're not very good. Mr. Sin says his lawn is sexy. Good man. I'm glad. Mine isn't. Mine is full of weeds. But the birds like it and the bees like it, so I'm okay with that. Paul Collins says, hi Bob, what video editing software do you use? I use Final Cut Pro for my own one here at home. I have used Premiere Pro. They're both, to be honest with you, they're both basically the same. If you can do one thing in Premiere Pro, you can probably do it in Final Cut Pro. The reason I have Final Cut is because I don't have to pay a subscription, number one. Premiere Pro costs a bloody fortune to use. It's 40 quid a month or something. And you get other stuff, but I don't want the other stuff. I just want Premiere Pro. I don't want After Effects or any of that stuff. So it's like 30-40 quid a month for Premiere Pro, and I don't want that. So I pay for Final Cut Pro. I use that; it works fine. The modern version is really good. The color correction tools are phenomenal on it. And generally speaking, Final Cut Pro is much faster at rendering out. Much faster. I rendered out a 2 gigabyte video on Premiere Pro. It's going to take 2.5 hours to render it out. 2.5 hours. Final Cut Pro did it in 15 minutes. So it's a big difference. When you're sitting waiting for 2.5 hours for a final version to come out, it's an awful pain in the hole. Glad to see so many of us have dropped in. Where the first hour is down. We're 14:58 p.m. We're on now 58 minutes. So click the like button. Thanks very much. And if you haven't been here before, there's a number of support items at the bottom as well. In the comments down below, you can find a PayPal, Patreon, and another link for Amazon Associates if you want to use that as well, which would be pretty cool. If you want, I don't know what it's like, I don't know, but it's not going to cost you anything because you're going to be buying the product anyway. You will get the product as normal through Amazon, but I get a tiny cut out of it, so it might be beneficial for both of us if you want to buy stuff. I have a little shop set up with some of the things that I actually use for travel. Some of the things that are there are things that I actually use when I travel, and I travel a lot. I don't know how many trips this year. I forget. A lot. It seems a lot. And some long ones as well, which is pretty good. But there's some stuff that I just don't go. I don't leave home without some things. And other things I could do without forever. Annie McPhee says, I use a lot of video editing software, but the software I paid for the license to have is now gone under. I've tried all the big name alternatives. Just can't get comfortable with any of them at all. As such, I've not made a single video in about 2 years. And there was one that I tried the other day. There's a couple of new free ones that you can get, and I can't remember the name of it. A Hit Record or Hit Film or something like that. And that's a pretty good video editor. I just don't need another one. Plus I don't have the time to learn another video editing software. So I just stick with Final Cut Pro because I know how to do everything, and I can do it in seconds. I know all the keyboard shortcuts. It's like instinct. I can do it very quickly. So I think I'll stick with Final Cut Pro. Plus, if you have a Mac, you'd be mad to do anything else because it responds very well to Mac, and it's €339 or something, and it's a flat fee. You've bought it forever, not like that bloody Premiere Pro that you have to rent forever. It costs a fortune. How are you supposed to get a business going? Half your outgoings going on your bleeding software. Zdenko says, hi Bob, run flat tires better. Yes, in the event of a puncture, I can definitely tell you that run flat tires are brilliant in the event of a sidewall puncture. Now, on the BMW i3, the run flat tires are not as nice. They do feel much more firm, and there's a lot of as you're going on the road, which is the nature of the i3 as well. It's a short wheelbase little car, so it is a little bit more jittery, I suppose you'd call it. But run flats have their purpose, a really good purpose. In certain situations, I'd rather have run flats on my car because in the event of a blowout, the tire will stay inflated. And in the event of a puncture, a sidewall puncture, a nail going in or anything like that, it's fine. It'll stay inflated and you'll be able to respond and be able to use the car and steer it to a stop. But the problem is the run flat tires cost more and they tend to be a little bit harder as you're driving as well. So there's a bit of that too. Cross says, I use the brush touch up for edges of panels and doors and imperfections not visible. Yeah, down little edges, it's not too bad. It should be okay there. What I was thinking more of is on the front bumper or front bonnet of the car where stone chips have occurred and people paint on a little bit and it looks horrible. You can see it a mile off. Toys and Stuff has said hi. Toys and Stuff is my daughter's channel, by the way. She reviews talks and plays toys, which is really cool. So that's her channel. So now, there you are. She's very good at making little videos. We're going to make a new one very soon. So we sit down, I show her to make videos. We get the cameras out and we do all the editing software. So within the next 4 or 5 years, if you join me as an editor, you're going to be out of business because my daughter will be doing all the editing. Anyway, we get there in the end. Mamid says, for tire reviews, TireRack.com is great. They get feedback from thousands of viewers, which include the vehicles and mileage and ratings the basis upon. Never heard of them, I have to say, but I tend to find user reviews are very biased generally. So generally speaking, you only ever hear about negative things online. So if you have a problem You go on, you have a problem with Ryanair, you go on to it, Ryanair, I hate Ryanair, they're no good, right? But if you go, God, I had a great time with Ryanair, it's a lovely flight, I had no problem at all. You don't ever go online and say that though, right? So you tend to get a biased amount of negative reviews towards things, like Honest John's website, right? Honest John, and they have these user review things. They only ever see the bad stuff. The recalls. My car broke down millions of times, and it's it's the only review you see. So I generally online take everything with a grain of salt. Look for people who have a genuine, like me or Sinead McCann or someone who has a genuine review of the thing. They actually have an opinion at the end of it. Watch out for those opinions. Like if you go to TripAdvisor, you look up some of the places you've been, you see the first 4 or 5 reviews are paid for, bought, see what else are reviewed. What are they like? Be very careful what you choose to do online and how you do it. But if you're looking for tire reviews, I suppose, that'd be hard to do. How would you have to have exactly the same car and exactly the same conditions and exactly the same tires on the car the whole time. That'd be very hard to do a review of tires, I have to say. Really would. Andy McPhee, so in the next 6 months, what car are you most looking forward to get your hands on? The Audi e-tron. I really want to go with that. I booked in. I'm okay. I have a date for driving it. That's definitely something I'm looking forward to. I'm also looking forward to the Hyundai version or the Kia version of the electric cars. I want to see what they do. They've got 2 of them on the way. Seems like getting very excited about electric cars, yeah. I'm actually going to be driving a Mercedes A-Class AMG later on in the year, a real one. An actual AMG in Ireland. How does this happen? So that's on the way. And there's a couple of other vintage cars, classic cars that I'm working on right now. I have a couple of Datsuns and things that are on the way as videos go as well. So they're not car company cars, they're just users' cars, but they've been offered to me and I've sought out another one. And I'm hoping to get my hands on a DeLorean later on in the year as well for a review, for a video. So there's a good few cars on the way actually first that I'm actually looking forward to driving and having a bit of crack in. It's just one of those years where I seem to be getting 2 cars every week for the next foreseeable future, because there's so many cars to get through. And then the Irish Car of the Year is on the way as well. There's a lot going on there too. I'm the chairman of the committee that deals with the Irish Car of the Year, so this is my 2nd term as the chairman, and it'll be my last, I can tell you. I don't want anything else to do with Irish Car of the Year, thanks. But it's been fun so far, so I'm still the chairman of that, so that's going to be really interesting this year. Cross says there's actually no run flats on the i3. Is there not? I thought I said run flats on that i3S that I had. That definitely did say run flats. I took a picture of it. I'm sure I took a picture of it. Maybe no, I think I took a picture on a bigger camera. The tire on the sidewall says I forget what the brand name was, but it said run flats on the side of it. That would be thick sidewalls to support the weight on a thin tire you are fitting. I cracked one of those sidewalls on the right and picked up an i3 Saturday at 2 a.m. Nice. Mr. Sin says Honest John used to be helpful, but they destroyed it. Yeah, they did, didn't they? I remember a journalist. He was the editorial journalist there. Dear Blank on Twitter was his Twitter handle. John Slevin was his name. He used to be the editorial content guy for Honest John when it was really good, and he actually committed suicide in a hotel room after an international trip. That was a couple of years back now in January. It was mid-January thing. He was a guy I knew well. He was a nice guy, and he really had Honest John going very well, but they've taken a while to recover from that, and I think some of it it'll get back to where it was, but Honest John it's not needed, and people didn't like it at the time as well, and the car industry really didn't like this user review stuff coming on. It was very negative on some brands. Some brands really suffered from that, and then Honest John started doing their own car of the year, because the UK don't have a car of the year. There's an Irish car of the year, there's a European car of the year, there's the French car of the year, there's actually the German car of the year as well, but there's no UK car of the year, not a single one. That's why they all have one. The Honest John has one, there's a What Car of the Year, and so on. They've all got a version of the thing. But Honest John used to hold it as well, and car companies didn't like it either, because they were giving out awards left, right and centre for all kinds of things. So there was a bit of a lashback on Honest John and some of the practices they were doing. Paul Hickey says, hello Bob, late joining today. Any news on the new VW ID3? God, we talked about all of that already, Paul Hickey. Yeah, there is. It's on the way. If you actually scroll back through the comments, you see that Cross 13 has put up a list of the cars that are on the way, the 3 models, 3 different ranges that are on the way for the ID3. It'll be a VW Golf size competitor, or Model 3, Tesla Model 3. You know the way they call it the ID3? Thinking of the Model 3. You know, it's very clever. I will show that, Carlos. Yeah, that's okay. YouTube tends to pick up these things all of a sudden and say, no, you're not allowed to show that link. It could be something risky. When actually it's quite normal. Annie McPhee says, Kia e-Niro is a bit on my wish list. I like that as well. I'm still on the fence with the rate of the EV development, though. Warranty in general, top trump specs on paper make it winning all-rounder to my needs at the moment. I don't know. I think I still have to get used to it. Because I jump from car to car. Like, I've been driving on a 2-litre diesel Kodiaq for the last 4 or 5 days. And we drove to Wicklow this morning. Went to Lara. Went to a car boot sale there. It wasn't great. Then went down to Blessington. Went to a car boot sale there. That was better. Even though there was less stands, they actually had better variety of stuff. And then drove home here. And I still have, I don't know, a quarter of a tank, 250 kilometres left in it, without thinking about it. And we weren't going exactly slow or anything. So electric cars have a little bit of ground to make up on that sort of a journey still. There's still an element of me that says that probably won't be able to make that kind of journey, but we'll see how they get on. Carlos Moreira says, Consumer Reports in the US has good tire tests. It's a paid subscription, and he put up a link to it there as well. Consumer Reports actually do a lot of interesting stuff. I don't know whether you can pay for these reports or whether they're anyway real biased, but anything I've ever seen come out of them doesn't look biased to me now. It looks like a fairly decent thing. Like they put a lot of effort into a lot of tests. We could do it here too, but it's just down to funding and time. I'm not properly funded to be able to get more people on board, so it's impossible to do these kind of consumer tests, these big consumer tests, where you have to get 3 or 4 journalists together for 2 or 3 days and just eat through a pile of tires, eat through van tests, braking tests, towing tests. You can do it. It's possible. It's been done. We've done it a couple of years ago, but just doing it again now would be really hard. The efficiency on the ID3 looks to be worse than the Hyundai options, says Cross. Doubt that mid-spec will match the Kona. The Kona will be close to 77 kilowatts in the real world range given in the you see, I suppose. Do you remember we went through a period where the petrol and diesel cars were saying what their fuel efficiency rating were, and it was all lies? Like, it was just like stupid, pull them out of the back end numbers, and nobody could achieve them. You know, these things where petrol engine doing 5.5 litres per 100 kilometres. I get the car was like 7.5 litres per 100 kilometres. Just not the same. I think we're at the same crux capacity problem of electric cars. I think there's a quoting, and I know WLTP is supposed to help with this sort of stuff, but I'm not sure it's really going to help. I still think they're going to be quoting range figures that are just unachievable. I know Nissan did it when I had the Leaf. It didn't do anywhere near, or it's 100 kilometres short or something of the range they said they were going to do. The Kona, I think the Kona got pretty close to its range. The Jaguar I-Pace definitely did well on the range, but you're talking about nearly $100,000 car here, so it's a crazy amount of mileage you can get, but the price of the things is just astronomical. Andy says, I currently do a 7-mile cold engine commute each way 5 or 6 days a week with longer runs out getting rarer these days. The Mark 1 Octavia still gets 650 miles a tank doing that Uneco commute. Right. 650 miles is about 800 kilometres. That's fine. It's fine. It's exactly what you want. Now, the problem is there's no electric car that can do that range. Just to get there, you have to go up to the very top of the Tesla range, which is just a lot of batteries in the Model X or Model S, even to get close to that thing. And you're still not going to get close. 800 kilometres is beyond any electric car range for a single fill. I don't think it's not impossible. I think it will be possible at some point, but right now it's just beyond where it should be. So it's a difficult place, because every time I look at them I go, electric cars are deadly, but there's always a but at the end of it, and that's the problem I have right now. Just looking over on our Facebook page for the Sunday Service community, I see a message from Peter Dolan, who I have a funny feeling is actually here. He put up a message about the price of insurance, which seems astronomical. And he's right, it does seem astronomical. He's got a quote of €2,689, €2,451. Insurance is a massive problem in Ireland. It is a massive, massive problem. they can charge whatever they like, and it seems to be just whatever they say it goes according to the government. It's fine. Yeah, the insurance company number, the Insurance Federation, of course, of Ireland will be looking out. Insurance Federation are all employed by the insurance companies to solicit goodwill from the politicians of Ireland, not from the general public. There is no one on the side of the general public in this country, and that is always going to be our downfall. Nobody wants to do it. There's no sort of consumer effort really, other than journalists, individual journalists out there. There's no consumer effort to stop that happening. So insurance companies, shop around. Don't be afraid. Don't do it online. God, as many times I say this to people, they still do it online. Phone the insurance companies. Go into their offices. There's offices. Some insurance companies have. Is it AXA? I think has an office here in the town. There's actual physical offices. I know it's a pain in the hole, but it's how you get the best deals. That's how I get the best deals every year, and I'm in a bloody position where nobody wants to give you insurance as a journalist. You're a journalist? Oh my God, you're worse than a vet. Cross says, that's actually my biggest argument against the Audi e-tron. Efficiency is terrible. 30% higher consumption than the Model X, which is bigger, and the gap between the i3 and the Model X. You're right, actually. I was surprised when I started reading about the e-tron. It looked like a great idea. But then when I started really investigating into what Audi was doing, it seems to have put in, I don't know why they've done this, they kind of made it a performance Audi e-tron. Instead of thinking this could be a really good electric car, it's actually got quite a short range, and the efficiency end of it is not really up there either. I think it's kind of rushed. I have a funny feeling that Audi has been rushed into making an electric car, and this is what they come up with, is this kind of rushed out version, and they'll come up with a different version in a couple of years' time, which will do much better. I remember talking to the MD, I think it was one of the MDs of Audi, and they said the holy grail was 600 kilometer range. That's where they were going for. That's the definite point they were going. They're nowhere near that with the e-tron. So I don't know what happened there exactly, but it's definitely should be out there. The e-tron is a smaller, lighter car than the Model X, and that's some achievement by VW. It's true, yeah. Andy says, I run 2 diesels cars for my small commute, so I have redundancy in the event of a problem with one, and so I'm still mobile. Only have to fuel both every 2 months. I like that. That's good. Cross says EPA cycle ranges for EVs are pretty much direct indication to the kilometre of what you'd see in real world in spring, summer in Ireland. WLTP is between that and NEDC numbers, but closer. And still I find it only under certain exacting circumstances will you get near the range of a petrol or diesel car, and it's kind of the same for electric cars. It's mixed world, and that's why I like to try and quote the actual fuel economy I'm getting from a car while I have it, because what I try and do is mixed driving. So sometimes it's a little bit sporty, sometimes very often I'm very eco. I can drive really economically when I want to. And I live in a part of the country that's very flat as well, so I don't have a whole lot of hills around here that I drive up and down quite regularly. So I tend to get real world mixed driving figures from most of the cars, and some of them are pretty spot on. Other ones are a little bit far off. Andy says the way the entire private car owning system is in the Republic of Ireland is frightening. From being a stone's throw of the border, my second car, a diesel Fiesta, is £30 a year to tax, £180 a year to fully comprehensive. That allows me the ability to easily run a second, so expensive is the other side, sadly. That's the problem in Ireland right now, is to tax a car, even to tax a Band A car, full all-electric thing, I think is 160 quid down here. Like, it's just crazy. And insurance is astronomical. Fuel costs, if you exclude electric from it, is very expensive. And now fuel is not exactly cheap up the north either, but it's definitely very expensive down here. And then servicing costs just seem to cost a fortune. But the problem is we have very few people who are motivated enough to do anything about that. So no one wants to protest, and we have elections on at the moment. No one wants to protest about the price of insurance here, about the price of fuel here, about the fuel levies. About 53% of a litre of petrol in Ireland is tax. Just so you know. About 53% or so, maybe a little bit more. Diesel is nearly the same, but some people can claim the VAT back. So if you're self-employed in Ireland and you're VAT registered, if you have a company vehicle, in other words, if you create your car as a company vehicle, every litre of fuel that goes in, you claim the VAT back on. Which is an awful benefit, actually, because it means that diesel is disproportionately benefited in Ireland and in Europe, not just us, to the point where people buy diesels because you can claim the VAT back off them. Peter Dolan says, my main point of insurance was surely there should be a regulation stipulating that your renewal quote should either stay the same or be reduced if no claims. Penalty points have occurred since. Your previous quote are staying the same insurance company. I don't know if I'd agree with that one, because we have to obey market forces. So you have to be able to allow an insurance company to up the quote if they want to. That's just a market force thing. So if the market is changing, then, if insurance is caught, because they're underwritten. So insurance is a weird thing. I could be an insurance broker in the morning if I can find an underwriter. So if I go to AXA and I say, I want to buy insurance from you and sell it to these people, I want to call myself First Insurance Company Ireland, that's fine. That's the underwriter taken care of, and I have insurance, so I can sell you a policy. So it depends how much I'm buying the insurance from off AXA. That's a broker or an insurance underwriter. So insurance is a kind of a weird thing. It is variable, but I do agree that suddenly doubling a quote because you're staying with them seems extortionate. But generally speaking, insurance companies will give you a higher quote because they know most people don't shop around. They know most people get insurance this year and it renews next year, and they don't even check. They don't know how much they paid last year, so they just go, yeah, that sounds okay. €700 to €1,000. Oh, €1,000's gone up a bit, isn't it? Oh, wow, and a sign on the dotted line. They don't even think about it. It can be a bit thick like that. But shop around. Definitely use the phone. Last time I phoned up, I got quotes online, loads of them. I was getting a quote for €1,100, €1,200, fully comp on that old 13-year-old car I have. I got all these quotes, and then I phoned one of the company and I got a quote for €375. So it's been like that ever since, because I phoned, not because of anything else. Andy McPhee, it seems so silly that no big party would use a massive reform of the whole VRT system as an election tactic. Any party could wipe the floor with genuine positive change. The problem is the lobbyists don't want to get rid of VRT, and the lobbyists being the motor industry. Can you imagine if VRT was gotten rid of new cars tomorrow? Your new car could be 30% cheaper overnight, like that, just like 30% cheaper, because VRT is gone. But it also means that your older car sitting on a car park forecourt that dealership has £1 million worth of used car in stocks also goes down by 30%. All of it, you just write it off like that. But VRT is a dreadful tax in this country. We have been subject to it since Bertie Ahern's time. He brought it in as a block exemption system to keep the English out, to put on VRT on cars that were coming in from England, and it's backfired. It's made more people go to England to get cars because they still look cheaper, even with VRT. So that's the way. You get rid of VRT and you stabilise the system, but it's going to have painful points. The Canadian company that took over the Whitegate refinery, I'm an investor in them and through another group, they made money back on the refinery in just over 2 years. I don't know what that means. Whitegate refinery. I don't know what that means. Alan Montgomery says, when do you think the VW ID Cross, the SUV sized car, will be available to buy? The fella at the launch the other night mentioned the model after the ID3 will be larger in size. ID3 is the first step that Volkswagen are making to bring out an electric car range. So there'll be more. There's 3 versions of ID3 coming, but ID3 would allude to the fact there might be an ID4 or there might be an ID2 if you think of that number, right? I know it's meant to make you think of Model 3 from Tesla, but it means there's space there to add more rooms in. So you might end up, if that's successful, because Volkswagen, don't forget, are so far behind this electric car thing, a couple of years behind. Like, this is going to be out in a rush. But we'll see when they come out whether they go with a different one, a bigger one or smaller one. Once they have the kind of movable chassis stuff going on, like they've had MQB chassis in their cars for years. Once they have that sorted out, it'll be fine. They'll figure out how to get more cars out, shells of cars on top of that chassis using the same electric power, which would be very good. But I'd like to see something happen in that respect. But I'd like to see them bring out some bloody cars. Every time I hear about a Volkswagen launch, it's fairly small, tame, 10 people at it, nothing else. It's like, what's going on with Volkswagen? It's all gone like cheap. Mamint says, speaking of Ford, in the US there is talk of a $4 billion class suit in regards to the defective dual clutch transmission design in the Focus Fiesta models. What's wrong with Ford? Ford also had to pull their power shift system out of Australia. Same reason, it was seizing up. I think the power shift is dry. I think it's a dry sump in the power shift one, and it was drying up too quick in the heat out in Australia, and so they had to pull the power shift and refund a lot of money to the general public. So the same thing has happened probably in the US. Power shift is a brilliant system that Ford had, but it is quite sensitive to temperature, so extremes it doesn't do so well, particularly extreme heat. That's why they've changed over to that 10-speed automatic that they have in the Raptor, in the Mustang. I think that's going to come into it's in the F-150 already, which is basically, how do I explain this in any sort of logical terms? So you got a 7-speed normal gearbox on it, and then they've put another 5-speed, 4-speed, whatever it is, a 6-speed normal box, and then a 5-speed on top of that comes out of a truck. It comes out with an F-150 and they slapped it on top, making a 10-speed box so it can cope with the torque from the engine. I was in Mustang, and I've driven it in the Raptor across the Western Sahara in Morocco. Amazing. Cross, CROZZ, is launching in the US 1st June, Europe 2021, I believe, at least according to VW. These dates, don't forget, these dates are all malleable. They change as Volkswagen decide they're getting closer to the time they can. Very itchy nose today, I can't stop scratching. There must be bloody pollen around again. I've never had hay fever until this year. The first time I've ever suffered with hay fever. I don't know where the hell that started. If you ever morphed into the EV only channel in the future, you could call it the last gear. Oh my god, why didn't I think of that? Right, creating a channel right now, call it last gear. No, yeah, I could just change it over and call it last gear. Just as good. The first gear, the next gear, the last gear, the top gear, fifth gear. See, fifth gear, they're falling behind because they've only got 5 gears. Like, there's 10 gears in cars these days. But top gear and me, next gear. My Mark 1 Octavia came from the Republic of Ireland as new at the time. It was cheaper than buying in the UK, and I was full of Opels rather than Vauxhalls for years. The whole VRT thing took hold. God, you see the amount of Vauxhalls on the road over here. See, the only one that stands out a mile is Vauxhall, because Vauxhall is the only one that is exactly the same car with a different brand name in the UK. So you're looking at VW Passat, there's no way of telling whether that Passat's Irish, English, or what it was. It could be anything. So there's no way of really telling the answer. But Opels, there is Opel and Vauxhall. They're the ones that actually tell a story as you're walking on the road or driving on the road. You see all these Vauxhalls pass you by. Even ESB, who took delivery of a fleet of new vans recently, half those vans are Vauxhalls because they couldn't fulfill the whole system from here in Ireland. So half the vans end up being Vauxhalls. So it looks weird when ESB is passing by and thinking, God, it's a state-run company that's got Vauxhalls. Remainder is mainly from UK refineries, some of the mainland, especially with Brexit coming up. The reason road fuels didn't drop in price with the oil last time was every middleman upped their margins, as happens. You watch the price of electricity over the next couple of years rising and rising and rising because of electric cars, because they'll just see a profitability there. There's a profit thing. It will happen because people want to make more money. They're all very greedy, you see. They don't do it for the end user. You don't get everybody electric and then make the electricity cheaper. You get everybody into electric and then make the electric more expensive because they have to buy it. Clever plan there, Illuminati. Oh, there now, I'm on a list now. Wow, shouldn't have mentioned them. Mentioned a couple of months back that the movie A Flash of Genius has one to watch, covering a true story of Ford at the intermittent wiper versus the guy they stole it from. Yeah, that's true. There's a good few car stuff out there. Like I said, I was watching A Long Way Round, the Ewan McGregor and Charlie Boorman thing, and I watched Long Way Down. Only watched Long Way Round. And I was in case you just joined us, I was at a car boot sale this morning, and I got this book here, Jupiter's Travels it's called. This man spent, in the late 70s, he did 63,000 miles around 54 countries, and the journey took him around the world on a motorbike, that motorbike right there. But this was the book that actually inspired Long Way Round, the first one. This is the one that they were talking about. They actually met your man, I think they met your man somewhere along that journey at that time, but This was the book that inspired that whole journey. It's great. And if you want to get your kids into reading, honest to God, if your kids are like 8 to 10, David Walliams books, they're very good. Got that today for £2. Grandpa's Great Escape. Really, really good. David Walliams is worth a read. Definitely. Get your kids into reading. It's the most important thing. It's good value. Look at the size of that book. It's good value. They're really good, fun books though to read. Worth a look at. Right, where are we? Whitegate Refining in Cork is Ireland's only 30% on the road fuel supply. Really? I don't know. That was another massive market that closed it off. Reminder, sorry, I'm after going back too far now. Alan Sturzen says, hi Bob, what is causing the high insurance prices, would you say? Meanwhile, my Merc C200 is only €700 a year to fully insure back in Sweden, and I'm only 22. It's a rip-off republic, it really is. You have a group of insurance companies and MDs and insurance assessors who all know each other. It is an industry where you have to know somebody to get into it. They literally do have meetings about finance, about price fixing, about all kinds of things. I've had sources who I will not name tell me about a meeting that happened in Dublin of all of the main insurance companies of Ireland, where they all sat down and they sorted out upping the price of insurance over a period of 3 years, because they were told by the EU, of course, that they weren't properly funded, that they couldn't withstand a large insurance claim that would come at them. And so they sat down and went, well, let's put up all our prices. So everybody's price rose at that time, and it hasn't gone back down. And they've had these meetings since. I've had this from reliable sources telling me that these meetings do occur quite regularly, and the insurance companies all get together and put the price of insurance up. Insurance in Ireland has always been relatively expensive. I remember my first insurance on a Datsun Nissan Cherry way back in, I don't know what year that was. I was 17, I think. Was £2,000, which would be close to €2,500 at least. And that was my first time insurance on a learner license. So my insurance here was always expensive, but now it is a complete rip-off now. There's absolutely no need for insurance to be as high as it is. So it still goes on that way right this day. And until we clean up the insurance company, they were invested, they were raided by CAB, they were raided by the European Union about the way that they operate. This has all happened. This really happened in Ireland, but how much news coverage do you ever see of this? But anyway, not much I can say about it. I'm just a little YouTuber, right? So educate yourselves. Powell says, Bob, is Brexit means the North new passport border between Northern? No, we've had an agreement. I think it was signed the other day. We agreed to have a passportless border would continue after Brexit, which means we can still go to North of Ireland. They can still come down here without having to stop at a border at all. I don't know exactly what that means for the future of the whole thing. Like, I was in Liverpool the other day, and they're very concerned about how Brexit operates. They got quite a big port there where they would export a lot of stuff to Ireland, particularly Ireland. It's an 8-hour bloody ferry ride between here and there. But anyway, they do export quite a bit of stuff between the two countries. So they were very concerned about Brexit and its effect on their jobs and their life over there. But when it comes to moving from here to Northern Ireland, Belfast or Newry or wherever you want to go, there will be no passport control. As far as I can see at the moment, the agreement has been signed by both governments. And so that isn't a thing really anymore, thankfully. But there is actually a border still there. Like, we do have a border. We just don't have to stop at it. That's the only thing I've ever seen it do. You don't have to stop at the borders. The hardest border crossing I ever had to do was in Morocco, weirdly. You man asked me 50 questions. I'm glad I wasn't carrying a drone. God, there's so many signs about drones. They don't like batteries. They really don't like batteries. They were so concerned about the size of batteries in phones. I had a little battery charger thing with me. And he was asking me what ampage it is and how big it is. He was examining the whole thing. Bloody hell, what a palaver. And that was just Essaouira, which is only a small airport. Cross says, this thing about electricity is fungible. Doesn't matter where you get it from. It's the same. They suddenly have to compete with everyone, including solar PV in your roof. The way I'd love to go, and I'm not sure I could ever afford it, but what I'd love to do is put solar panels front and back on my house. That would run on the kind of Tesla Powerwall system. So you get a battery pack on your wall outside. Those solar panels are charging the battery pack. The battery pack is is electrifying your house, so you run electricity there, but it also charges your electric car outside. Free, just free. It's all free. Wouldn't that be amazing? I'd love that. It'd be some crack. That would be the end of public electric stuff. You wouldn't have to pay any more bills. It'd be deadly. There is an Irish videographer who has a series of videos on YouTube and a few books who did a ride around the world called Not Dead Yet. Also other trips outstanding and 100% solo, a true legend. I'm a big Long Way Round fan, but this guy puts them to shame. Travel films and edits alone, quality output is fantastic. Randomly in the news this week, the guard stopped one of our cross-border services, boarding a bus and requiring passports and our national identity documents from all aboard. Do you have a link for that guy that does the videos? I've never seen that. Not Dead Yet. Must look up that. Look up Not Dead Yet. It's an Irish guy doing round the world trips. I'd like to see that. Official response to media was that it was standard immigration check. Yeah, well, you don't have to produce your passport. Look, if I was driving to Belfast tomorrow, I wouldn't have a passport on me. That's for sure. I might have a driver's license. I will have a driver's license. He has the law to carry a driver's license. But I certainly wouldn't have a passport. Not a hope. So they may have to turn me back if they want to do that. And that would definitely make the news. For sure. I reckon that if I was turned back from the border of Northern Ireland, I would definitely make the news. So turn me back so I get on the news. What else have we got going on in the Sunday Service community? I do apologise. I'm not getting a chance to get in at the Sunday Service community and actually comment on everything. When I get the chance, I do, but I don't always get the chance to do it. So it can be an awful pain in the hole trying to get around to everybody at everything. Loads of friend requests and everything else. The Aston Martin Rapide. That guy, what's his name? Is really annoying. There's a guy... He's on YouTube, Shmee or something, whatever his name is. He's got too much money. There's something wrong with that. Honest to God, too much money. No brains, no sense at all. Just, hi, it's me. And Alan O'Shea's Audi that he put up as well is absolutely stunning looking yoke. Is in such good nick. An old Audi, what is that, 100? It's a beautiful, beautiful car. Love that. So like I say, I'm not getting a chance, but you can join us more on the Sunday service on Facebook. It's the Sunday Service community. There is a link in my comments down below if you want to join that. It'd be wonderful to have you there. I do comment whenever I can, whenever it's possible, whenever I get a chance. But I'm omnipresent, so I'm on Instagram as well. But I'd love to have you on the Sunday Service community. Also, I'd love your support. If you fancy supporting this channel, you can do so on Patreon. There's a link down below in the comments. PayPal, which is direct payment. It's probably the best way of doing it, actually, to be honest, because it's just a one-off. So Patreon is like a drip feed. You put a little bit in, you put in like €1 a month, or like a tenner a month, or 50 quid, whatever you want to put in a month, and that goes to me over time. So it's not all the time, it's every month or so that gets taken. Or you can do it through PayPal, which is a single payment of whatever sum you want, and nothing can be turned down. From €1 upwards, I am not fussy whatsoever. It all goes to support the channel because, of course, YouTube is a malleable payment. I don't get a wage from car companies. I don't get paid by car companies. I don't get paid by YouTube. So it depends on the advertising rates. And be honest with you, about 20%, I'd say, of the views on YouTube are actually monetized, if even that. Scrapes over 15%. So 20 million people on YouTube have watched my videos. Near enough. It wouldn't be far. 19 million people would be a good number. But if every one of them give €1, sure, I could fund the next gear to do Top Gear. It'd be as big as that. So not that hard. But only about 10% of those have actually seen an ad. Anyway, Snazbot says, Not Dead Yet, part 1 of 52. That's what, why, where, and wherefore is on YouTube. I will click that link as soon as this is over. I'm afraid of upsetting my channel now if I click it now. But I will go and check that out. Powell says, can't wait for visiting Ireland, eating full Irish breakfast in a cheap B&B and drinking Guinness. Yeah, Guinness is quite nice. It is. I've drank quite a bit of that over the years. But Irish breakfast is the best breakfast in the world if you're a meat eater. It really is. I have had breakfast all over Europe and most of it turns out to be ropey at best. I hate those little white sausages. I can't stand the things that taste like chorizo. The rashers are rotten either little plastic things which break when you look at them and go, why is the rasher snapping in half? What's that about? Or it's a sort of a transparent brown thing that's not really ham. And then scrambled eggs, which are made up of powdered eggs, which are horrible. You won't get any of that in Ireland, and any even remote bed and breakfast in York, you will get the most lovely sausages and proper rashers. And sometimes you get hash browns, sometimes you don't. Some people would say that's a Northern Ireland addition to the thing, a more northerly addition to the breakfast, but I think it's quite nice. You usually get baked beans these days. You didn't when I was young, but you do now. We used to do a thing in Ireland called a mixed fry. I don't know if it even exists on anybody's idea, but a mixed fry was like liver, kidneys. I loved it, actually. I loved it. You could get it in some chip shops here in Ireland. It's really an Irish thing. It's awful, really. The bits that you don't like because it's called a human part of a body. This is the part we don't eat. See, humans don't like eating things that are called the name that is like them. So liver, kidneys, eyeballs, ears, tongue. We don't like stuff that's called something of a human. So we prefer things that are not called something from a human. So that's how it works. It's a psychological thing purely. I used to eat liver and kidney. I loved the two of them. I don't eat meat much anymore now, but I used to love going in and getting a mixed fry in Central Grill in Newbridge. It was gorgeous, lovely thing to get. Cheers, Snaz. That's the badger right there. Intro into that video one. We'll explain how we got into World War to watch. Pavel, when are you coming over, Pavel? Yeah, that's true. Are you coming over to us? You are. If you're coming over, so you'd have to drop in. You can set up a monthly regular payment on PayPal also. You can actually. That's a new thing. I didn't realize you could do that, but you can. Yeah, you can set up a little drip feed on PayPal should you want to do that, which is always appreciated. This is just supporting the channel. It's always good. I do all this for free, all this advice as much as I possibly can, and I try and maintain this as well. We're going to have a full physical meetup again this year. I've had multiple requests from people. They want to bring classic cars and they want to do stuff, so I'm going to try and figure out some way that I can do a course, because Tony Toner, who's a safety expert, right, motorbikes and cars, teaches advanced driving from a safety perspective. He'd like to do a safety explanation about motorbikes and cars and safety equipment, and that's cool. We can do that. So what we might do is hold it in a very unusual place. I have to get special permission to do it. I'll come back to you, and I'm thinking of a place. It's in Dublin. I can't avoid a Dublin thing. It's a place that I think would work well for us in Dublin, and we'd be able to hang out and have coffees and all that sort of stuff, and it'd all be free, and he'd be surrounded by cars and motorbikes and stuff. So it'd be nice, but we'll see if I can get that done. I see your Irish breakfast never raised an Ulster fry. I've never had an Ulster fry. As many times as I've been in Northern Ireland, I've never had an Ulster fry, and I've heard about it multiple times. I'll have to go some stage to Northern Ireland and actually get an Ulster fry. I always feel a bit weird when I go there and ask for an Ulster something. You always feel a bit, rebel in me comes out. The English one is crap. Yeah, I had breakfast in England the other day in Liverpool, and it's as good as a lovely woman who was served me breakfast. And the guy who was serving breakfast knew me from the channel, so he watches the channel, and he came over. He was so nice. They're all nice and trying to give me loads of breakfast. And I was looking at the sausages, going, "No, I'm not eating them. They look horrible." They're one of those with little herbs in them. The ones that are full of rusk and herb. Irish sausages tend to be 80% meat, and we use the skin on the outside. So the sausages in Ireland tend to be really high quality in comparison to the ones you get anywhere else. But anyway, English use beans, which is heresy, according to Gross. Now, there you go. You should never have baked beans on your Irish breakfast. Although we do depends where you go. You often go to Irish hotels, will often have a vat of beans there and a whole heap of soda bread and hash browns and things. None of those stuff would have been considered really breakfast material in Ireland at the time. Potato farls, yeah, I love potato farls as well from the Ulster fry. I do like the potato farl stuff. I also like, you can have chips for breakfast if you want as well. I've seen this in Ireland in hotels here too. Powell says, Annie McPhee, depends on our Ryanair prices to fly between Gdansk or Warsaw and Ireland. Do you watch the other reviewer from Poland that I can't hear his name of now? Not terrible. Marek drives. Let me watch him. He's coming over to Ireland as well. We're going to make a video together. That should be a crack. I'm going to speak in Irish and English. He's going to speak in Polish and Irish. Polish and English. He's going to teach me Polish and I'm going to teach him Irish or something. He's coming over to Ireland at some point this year, and we're going to make a video while he's here. But just if you all watching him over in Marek, he's a mate of mine, so he's a nice guy. We still yet to meet on an international trip. Poland does not go on the same trips as I do. So it's a bit weird like that because we all go together. So often I find myself with Turkish journalists or Swedish or Nordic journalists in general on things, and then the UK journalists go on a different schedule than me, and then you find that Polish journalists are there weeks after or whatever. So it's kind of weird. I don't often meet the guys that I actually know very well. Carlos says, hold on, I have to go back. I missed one. Snazbot says, they have asked for passports on a border before Brexit. They might stop the odd bus and see if you have an Eastern European voice that will ask you to your passport. You see, the problem is, what's happening is, a lot of they're terribly concerned with immigration, England. Terribly concerned. And yet it's been going on for years. I was in England in the 80s, and it was absolutely full of migrants at the time. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. What's going on right now is they're terrified because if you're an EU citizen, you can travel to Ireland from anywhere in the EU with your passport, and you can go through the EU channels. Once you exit Dublin, you can get on a bus and go to Belfast, and you're in England now, technically, without showing your passport. And then you can get a ferry from there, or whatever you want to do. You're flying from England to England, so you don't necessarily need your passport. But when I was getting on the Liverpool ferry the other day, I needed my passport. So I need a passport now with passport control from ferry in Liverpool. Have you ever tried Scrapple? No, I haven't. What is that? I've seen a drink called Scrapple. No, maybe I'm thinking of a different one. That's the answer to that one. Andy McPhee says that English full cooked breakfast lacks the breads and has a piece of sliced white bread fried. So a solid piece of tasteless nothing. Don't do breads in general. That's true. Yeah, it's true. Fried bread. You'd have to do, if you're going to do fried bread, it would have to be at a really high temperature, so it turns out like greasy toast. That's the only acceptable fried bread, I'm afraid. Other than that, just toast. But oils aren't great. There's a starling in the backyard feeding a baby starling that's bigger than the adult starling. You know, if baby starlings are kind of fat, and this little baby starling is screaming at mommy for food. Not just the way kids are, though, isn't it? The English sometimes add liver and things like that. Yeah, they do. I wouldn't do it now. But when I was younger, I used to have offal in food. I quite liked the liver and kidney stuff. It was seen as being pretty good for you at the time. I don't know if it's any good for you now, though, mind you. Potato bread and soda farls are my favourite thing in the world. I do an awful lot of cooking here myself, so soda farls now are on my brain now. I want one now. I definitely want one. I love them. Along with proper Irish sausages for a fry. Proper Irish sausage is my favourite. I wouldn't be into bacon now. I'm not a big fan of rashers, generally speaking. Because either they're too salty or they're too smoky, or even to get unsmoked ones, they don't really taste of much. I do like a sausage though, I have to say. I like Aldi do really good sausages. They're Irish sausages as well, but Aldi do really good sausages. Irish sausages are best in the world by miles. Irish beef is the best in the world by miles. I don't eat beef, but it's the best in the world by miles as well. Paul says, any problems with renting a car in Ireland with my Polish driving licence? No. Ireland is full of Polish people. There's a lot of Polish people live here. My next door neighbours are Polish. A couple across the road here are Polish. There's loads of Polish people here in this country. They come and go quite regularly. Most of them came here in Polish vehicles even, or bought a car immediately, usually an Audi or a Mercedes, the minute they landed, and they're on Polish licenses. So no problem here with Polish license, but I think you can only hold on to it for a year. Same in New Zealand. When I lived in New Zealand, I drove on an Irish license, a full Irish license out there, but you can only do that for 12 months. After 12 months, you have to change to a New Zealand license. So that was a big change over here. But you should have no problem renting a car without a Polish license. No. Cross says, I usually have a good Irish breakfast somewhere in Dublin early on a Sunday morning. Missed it this morning, slept in. I do like that, yeah. You know what? My favourite breakfast of all time, and I know this is going to sound really poor, but it's porridge. Porridge with fruit, bit of maple syrup, some linseed, now fruit on top of blueberries or raspberries or strawberries, maybe all of them, and you mix it all up in a lovely bowl of either, you could do it cold, you could do it hot, whichever one you want, but as long as it's good, honest Irish porridge, it's just not gruel. You're looking to make a nice creamy porridge. It's gorgeous. God, I love that breakfast. It's really my favourite breakfast of all time. But if it's followed with a fry up now, I'm okay with that as well. I could have both, maybe. Annie McPhee says, no problems at all, but to bring it with you. Any EU license is very simple and straightforward. Polish still doesn't use the euro, though, do they? I mean, I know it is part of the EU, but only kind of a little bit. They've only dipped the foot into the EU, not quite all of the EU. They put beans because beans are cheap. You know, beans are fillers. And well, in fairness, I do like beans as well, but I don't necessarily like beans with my breakfast. But if there's nothing else liquidy on the plate, I wouldn't mind beans. Powell says, I really love Ireland and Irish people, mainly because of good treating foreigners. A lot of Irish people was immigrants, and they still don't have so imperialistic state of mind. Irish people are more humble. Don't know about humble, but we don't really mind. Well, Irish people can be subtly racist, but I don't think they actually know they're being racist. I don't think it's an intentional thing. I think it's just a curiosity thing, you know. Irish people tend to meet someone who's not their skin colour and go, so where are you from? And then the person who might be black or Asian or something will go, Dublin. In a big Dublin accent. You know, we're not intentionally racist, but I think it just comes out sometimes in a curious way. We're just curious about people. We like meeting people. We like talking to people. I noticed when I was on my Moroccan trip, I ended up talking to several Moroccan people in the souk, and I ended up talking to individuals on stands and stuff, just chit-chatting to them, you know. And then I'm told, oh God, you shouldn't be talking to them. You never know, they're going to rip you off or something. I just found it to be nice people. It's a real Irish thing to just kind of meet people and have a chat and talk, and it's fine and everything's good. And we get on with people or we don't. But I don't think we're intentionally racist, generally speaking. I think there's this tiny undercurrent in Ireland of people who don't like the idea of immigrants coming into the country. But it's a small-minded individual group of people out there who just aren't educated properly. That's all. Just need a bit more education to be fine. Cross says as well, we love the Poles. I've had Polish neighbours for years here. I've always got on. Loads of Polish people living in Ireland. Loads of them. You see it in the census forms every year. Loads of them living here. And they're lovely. Generally speaking, they're lovely people. There's always going to be a rough element among any city dwellers who come from other countries. They've got different ways, different things going on. So they're lovely, you know, generally. Hellhound says, I like Marek. He's got a good sarcastic right up my street. The pair of you together would be good fun. Yeah, that's how we latched on together. We've been supporting each other for a while. I like his videos, he likes my videos, and so on. And we look after each other on Instagram as well. We're in regular contact. I'm still impressed by the fact that he makes 2 videos, one in Polish, one in English. That's a lot of work. The Polish ones do far better for him than the English ones, but he still does them in English. And he's looking to come over here to make... he's looking to come over here on holidays, I think. But while he's here, we're going to shoot a video together, maybe. I'm going to get him access to a car over here somewhere. Two of us will pick a car and we'll do it. There's another dual video coming up for myself and Sinead McCann. Not for a while yet though, another couple of months I think. Another month or something like that. We just can't find time in the schedule to do it. So we're going to be doing a review of 2 hybrids. A RAV4 and a Honda, I think. I can't remember what it is we're doing. It's terrible, isn't it? I never know where I'm going or what I'm doing. Powell says Irish people are humble because remember what it's like to be poor. Remember we had a famine in Ireland. We were under the yoke and chain of England for many years. We were invaded by the Vikings. They're not called Vikings, they're called Norsemen. But we were invaded by the Norsemen. We had the English over here keeping us. They drove out our language. They got rid of the Irish language. Nearly gone now completely. I'm trying to learn some myself. We've had a tough life, and I think that's why my mother used to say, hey, finish up your dinner, finish everything on your plate. It came from the famine times. It was just left over, you know. People had nothing, and people in Ireland still have nothing. Some people are doing well, some people are doing poorly. There's a big difference between the two. The ones that are doing well are doing very well, and the ones that are doing badly are doing very badly. It's a tough place to be, but it's a great country. It's a great country, and Ireland has great chance in the future if we could just stop being so negative about ourselves. I see it on Facebook a lot, a hell of a lot. The people that I meet and I know here, one person not far from me wanted to replant a tree that had fallen down, and I said, sure, the kids will only knock it down on you. Oh no, that'd be terrible. You know, the kids are... He goes, it's just planting a bleeding tree. Just plant a tree. I'll come up and help you. It's fine. It's okay, you know. People are very negative in Ireland about stuff. They always see the bad things, the bad side of everything. I actually only ever really see the good things. But then I don't watch the news much. I don't get involved in that and things. I don't really pay attention. I just plough my own furrows and keep going at stuff and help people who want help. And I get actually very little help. I get loads of help from you guys on the channel and on Facebook and stuff. But actually the other journalists, you get no help from. None at all. They're all terrified of losing access to things as well, you know. So there's very little help from any of them. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. It might be an Irish thing, maybe an English thing, maybe, I don't know. Never worry about asking for an Ulster or anything up the road. In the province of Ulster includes Cavan, Monaghan, Donegal, as well as the 6 of Northern Ireland. That's true. The whole thing is, that's true. Barry Cunningham has left. He's off for his dinner. We're going to be going very shortly as well. 8 or 9 minutes left, so get your bleeding questions in, right? It's been a really busy Sunday service in fairness to it. I didn't think it was going to be because the sun is shining. It's a beautiful day, and I thought you'd all be out enjoying a bit of sun. We're supposed to have good weather for the next while. We're looking at, I talked to him because I work with a few companies who deal in outdoor stuff, so grass and landscaping and stuff like that. So I do a lot of talking to Met Éireann, talking to meteorologists to try and figure out what's going ahead. So forecast coming up for the next couple of months, it's going to be fairly stable and dry, believe it or not. We're going to get a start. This is basically the start of summer now. You're looking into 19 to 20 degrees pretty much every day, and we are going to have, well, it looks to be the forecast of a drought this year in Ireland again. So we are going to be in trouble when it comes to the drought system in Ireland. It is probably going to happen. Just remember that. So start stocking up your water now. Powell says, I subscribe to Marek Drives. He is the best independent car reviewer, very smart and good English speaker. He is, yeah. I've had loads of thoughts. He was one of the only other YouTubers that I can think of who offered to help and genuinely did help my channel. He's much bigger channel than I have, but he genuinely did come with a list of suggestions and things to do and how to do it, and I followed an awful lot of them, and it did actually work. I was always curious at how big channels got bigger quickly. And I tried to follow what he did, and he was the only one who ever came and said, yeah, I'll give you a hand, no problem at all, we stick together as much as we can, and I help him where I can as well. So we do talk about cars, we've given opinions about stuff, and we chit chat quite regularly, and I'm hoping we can get together and do something this year. If maybe I could go to Poland. I think it's quite expensive, but I don't know any Polish PRs, so I'm not going to get any cars over there, but I might go. It'd be cool to go to Poland and just do something out there. Carla says, Scrapple, also known by the Pennsylvania Dutch name Paranus or pan rabbit, is traditionally a mush of pork scraps and trimmings combined with cornmeal and wheat flour and spices. Scrapple is a breakfast food. I think you were thinking of Snapple tea. Snapple tea is what I was thinking it was, actually, yeah. My God, I'd like to taste that. That sounds much worse than I suspect it is. A mush of pork scraps and trimmings combined with commercial cornmeal and wheat flour and spices. Yeah, if of course it'd be like a little burger or something, you could fry that off. It'd be quite nice. You make it kind of crispy as well. Cornmeal can be hard to get here. Yeah, it can. Yeah, we don't really do that cornmeal stuff. Bob, please meet Marek Drives and make a video. I will try my best. The Singing Shade. Any sign of a review of the new RAV4? That is coming, that is on the way. Toyota aren't exactly the greatest communicators in the entire world, so getting a hold of a RAV4 has been a bit of a palaver. But I do have one. I'm making a dual video with Sinead McCann on the RAV4. I have sat in it. I have played about with it. It seems okay. It's big though for a RAV4, which used to be kind of a middle one. It's quite a big car. The problem is it's a hybrid. It's still only a step towards where you want it to be, and it's a big car to be a hybrid. So I'd worry about fuel efficiency, but I'll find out. It'll be probably June before I actually get around to it, but because I am seriously booked out with videos and cars at the moment. So much stuff on, although I'm not. I am bleeding travelling next week as well. I go to bloody Paris next week to go over meet Johnny Smith and all those guys from Fully Charged and all that. Do something over there. Don't know what I'm doing over there. Follow me on Instagram, you find out what I'm doing over there like I do live. We have lots of rain in southeast Pennsylvania on Mother's Day. Peter Dolan, you are a very generous man. That is €5 has popped in on our super chat from Peter Dolan. You're very kind. Thank you very much. Powell says, are Irish people also so enthusiastic about drinking tea like English people? We're better at drinking tea than English people, but we do like our coffee. Coffee has become the number one sales here. I don't buy coffee in shops, generally speaking. As much as I can, I stay away from coffee in shops. We do buy coffee to make in our own coffee machine here, though. So we make machined coffee. Not great quality, but great. It's good old machined coffee, our own stuff. It's nicer that way. But tea here is an important factor as well. We do drink a hell of a lot of tea, probably as much, if not a little bit more, than England. But coffee is the number one thing now. People meet. It's a thing now. You meet for a coffee now. When I don't like that. So if you ever want to meet me for business, tell me you want to meet me for business and you want a half an hour of my time or an hour of my time to pitch something or do something, or you want to pitch an idea or whatever the hell it is, and give me the reason why you want to meet. When somebody says they want to meet me for a coffee, I think, right, that's going to be a half an hour, but it ends up being an hour, and there's 25 minutes of chit chat of how are you feeling, how are you getting on, what do you think of that car, what do you think of this car, before the actual stuff comes out. And you've like a whole hour is gone of your day, and you kind of go, what did I achieve in that hour? What happened there? So if you want to meet, generally speaking, for my purposes, when I'm meeting someone, I tend to meet them at a weird time. So I meet them at 11:10 a.m. instead of 11 o'clock. Everyone's on time when you say 11:10, psychological thing. And I never meet you for a coffee. I always meet you with a purpose in mind. So I say, listen, we'll drink coffee. So we meet in midway and we'll talk about a car review or an editing thing. And I meet you at 11:10. And everyone turns up at 11:10 and you get straight to business. So you sit down and you go, this is what we're meeting for. And then you have your coffee and you have your chit chat after. You go, right, I'm finished, and go home. It's much better if you want to do business that way. That's just me, maybe. I don't know, but lots of other people are like that too. Traditionally, Cross says more coffee. Anyway, he says, drink coffee in the same way English tea drink, personally. But most traditional Irish homes, the kettle is always on and the intent of making tea is at a moment's notice. That's true. I use a French press for my coffee. We have a French press, we have a machine that does as well, and I also use an AeroPress. Have you ever heard of an AeroPress? You can actually, if you click, I put it into I'm not telling you to buy it in here, but there's a link down below to my storefront in Amazon, and you will see the AeroPress on that list. I do actually use an AeroPress here quite regularly, and sometimes I bring it travelling as well, so do you have time? I won't read that out, Derek Norris. Spoiler alert has come up there. Come on, Derek. Come in and complete the spoiled F1 Grand Prix. Do you have better bread than the UK? Most breads in the UK are disgusting. Yes, we do have really good range breads here, but then you can get more stuff as well. Now, I know some Polish breads we wouldn't have, but we do have Polish shops here. There's quite a number of Polish shops in Ireland to sell things like tiger bread and stuff, which would be a traditional Polish stuff. So there's a good bit of that there, for sure. Trevor says, just in, missed the show. Where were you? You missed it. It's 1 minute to go, and you want me to sum up the whole 2 hours in 1 minute? That's what it is. Just on the autonomous driving, who is liable in an accident if the car is driving itself? In Ireland right now, you are. You are the driver, no matter who's driving. So if you're in a semi-autonomous car, like I have the active cruise control on my Skoda out there right now, if I'm driving on a motorway and that car is doing active cruise control and it hits somebody, I am responsible. Not the car company, not the car, nobody else, because I am the insured party, not the car. But in certain districts that changes. It is still to be tested properly in the US as to which one is more responsible, whether the car crashes or whatever it is. You know, there's all kinds of questions around that insurance thing. But currently in Ireland, the driver of the car is the person sitting in the driver's seat, or the person in the car who is responsible. Whether you sit in the driver's seat, you sit in the back seat, you're the insured party. So it's always going to be you. And by the way, autonomous driving in Ireland is illegal. You must be in control of your vehicle at all times. It's in our legislation. That means you must put your hands on the wheel and keep them there. If you take your hands off the wheel while you're driving a Tesla or whatever car it is that has autonomous driving, you are breaking the law and can be done for dangerous driving. Last few questions. The missus says, thanks for the good nap. Nice. She says, your soothing Irish accent is best for Sunday afternoon nap. Plus it means that she's not pestering me. Win-win. Nice. I like it. I'm glad she enjoyed her nap to my voice. I fall asleep to Top Gear. If I need an afternoon nap, I put Top Gear on the TV and doze off. I do it all the time. It's like my sleep's like I hear Top Gear gone. It's lovely. I love a good afternoon nap. A good afternoon nap sets you up for the whole day, the whole rest of the day. Portuguese bread. I've never had Portuguese. Well, I probably have had Portuguese. I've been in Portugal a few times. I probably have had Portuguese bread, just didn't know it's from Portugal. It's very good. Good, wholesome, very generally heavy breads. England has sliced white and sliced white in my eyes. I lived in England for a decade, and the lack of breadmanship offended me. I make my own bread a lot here. Make my own straightforward loaf often. Sometimes I make a sourdough. We have a bakery just on the road from us, or no, just not far from here, 20 minutes from here, 10 minutes from here, and I sometimes go down there and get their sourdough. It's quite nice. The Singing Shade says, Bob, do you think now our country has declared a climate crisis, or our motors going to be hit with huge carbon tax bills in the near future? Yep, for sure. Declaring a crisis means absolutely nothing. That means nothing. No action has been taken whatsoever on the behalf of the government on the climate crisis. The Green Party is looking at its feet and hasn't got a clue, wants us all driving electric cars, thinks that's the solution to everything, when it's absolute codology that is not the solution to everything. Nobody wants to talk about the methane crisis and the amount of crap that literally comes out of the agricultural industry, and the amount of CO2 emissions that they produce. Nobody wants to talk about the ferry I took the other day and the other ferries that are in the water constantly, and the millions and millions of tons of CO2 that's pumped out into the atmosphere by the transport industry in the ferry segment. And definitely nobody wants to talk about Ryanair and Aer Lingus and all the other Iberias and everything else out there that coat our sky consistently in CO2 on an hourly, moment-to-moment basis, passing over your house. Billions of CO2 coming out of it. Cars are the least of your worry. Personal transport is the least of the CO2 problems, particularly in Ireland, because we have updated all our cars, so every one of them is less than 10 years old, more or less. So yes, you are going to be hit with a carbon tax bill. It is time to protest. It is time to make an understanding. The Minister of Transport should know what he's doing. He doesn't. Not only Minister of Transport, the Minister for the Environment should know what he's doing. He doesn't know either. He's an absolute lunatic and should never have been elected in the first place. And nobody up there has actually got a grasp of what's coming down the road in 5 years' time. And we're just about to sink €3 billion into building an infrastructure for broadband in rural areas, and we'll never see a cent of that ever coming back to us. 2.5 billion towards a hospital in Dublin that should never have been put there, and so on. And we elect these people. So there's my tuppence worth now when it comes to government departments and their uselessness to the world, generally speaking. The climate crisis thing that they've declared means nothing. Just bear that in mind. That is just a declaration to say there is a climate crisis. We're not going to do anything about it. It's just there. It's over there somewhere. And I remember when they announced this climate crisis, there was nobody in the hall from Sinn Féin. There was no one in the hall from Fine Gael. There was no one in the hall from Fianna Fáil. They don't give a crap. They couldn't care less about climate change. They're just feathering their own nest and they went out with it at the end of that. We won't be delaying any climate measures. They won't do anything. Nothing is going to come. It's a great headline, but nothing's going to come of it. Isn't there a bus that drives itself along the docks? Is that breaking the law? Yes, it is, because it doesn't actually break itself. It drives in a little circuit. It was brought over to show that it can be done, but it's actually fenced off. It wasn't on public roads. So it's not like something that's driving around on its own. It is totally legal to have automated driving in Ireland under the current legislation. So I did say this to Government Department, Minister of Transport, 4 or 5 years ago when I said about automated driving at the time, and I wrote them a big long email explaining why we should get the legislation changed urgently, that we can test automated driving cars in Ireland. We would be the world leader of it if we did it at the time. We didn't. They said it was too hard and too complex a task to change that law, so they didn't change it. And what happened? They started testing them in the UK instead, and now they're the market leader. So that's the way it works. They test them in Munich, they test them in Germany, they test them all over the place, but not here. No, God, no. No. We couldn't test them here. We are the perfect climate for car testing. Anyway, are you growing a beard? No, just haven't shaved a couple of days. Just couldn't be bothered. Just one of them things where I didn't have to make a video and I didn't have to do anything. And then this morning I realised I was just really beardy looking. I'll shave later on today. Be fine. By the way, I use a single blade razor. I don't buy big disposable things. I buy the little Wilkinson sword pack things. It's a double razor. My father used to own it. Actually, the razor would probably be the thick end of 50 years old, I suppose, and it still works fine. And I use a lather up a soap, shaving.ie. I've no brand awareness with them at all. That's where I get all the stuff though. Shaving.ie. They deliver straight out. Brilliant. Right, last questions. The whole lengths and efforts Tanya dots on the map make for climate change are depressing when you see the USA and China giving little or no regard to it. The rest are just dropping the climate ocean. Bob for Minister of Transport, says Trevor. Some chance of that, alright. There's so many changes I would make so instantly, but the problem was it would all be in the benefit of the consumer, and it terrifies the government that I'd want to make changes to benefit the consumer, not to benefit business. That's the problem, is they always want to benefit the business out there. It's all about business. Start your own business. Get your own business going. So we have to have business out in the country. Lots of employees out in the country now. That's why we have to have this 3 billion quid's worth of investment. It's absolute horseshit. What's coming on the road right now is 5G, and what's coming on the road right now is mobile connectivity that's like we've never had before. We don't need these bloody cables going out into rural Ireland so a farmer can do a bloody tax return. Anyway, that's just the way it is in Ireland, and we always can do something about it, but people refuse point blank. They think going on to Twitter or going on to Facebook and going, that Charlie Flanagan should stand down. That's the way they respond to things. Yeah, right. Anyway, the votes are coming up very soon, so you can vote as you please and start writing to your local TD if you want something done. This has been the last 2 hours and 10 minutes. You've been very, very good and very attentive. You've all stayed in as well, which is a good part. You can still support the channel in some way. It's always good. Super Chat is there, but you can use the PayPal or Patreon, or you can go over to the Amazon store and click on something there and buy something from Amazon. You still get the same price you're going to get it anyway, just like a little cut out of it if they buy it from my store is the only difference. There is also t-shirts available in certain districts as well underneath here. I have no control over the price of that. That's Teespring. I know they look expensive. They're actually really high quality, but they still look a little bit pricey for just a t-shirt. But I get a little tiny cut out of that as well. So anything you can do to support the channel is always good. As always, I am on Instagram, and I'm here on YouTube, and I'm on Facebook very, very little. But I am on Facebook, mostly on a Super Sunday Service channel. I don't really use Facebook much else. I am on Twitter as well. Again, I don't use Twitter a whole lot for that sort of stuff. But anything you can do to support the channel is always welcome. Hopefully you will look after each other for the next week until we return next Sunday as normal. If you're over in Paris on Wednesday and Thursday for that tech show, I will be there somewhere along with Johnny Smith and Bobby Llewellyn and those kind of guys that are over there too. So hopefully we'll all meet up and have a little chinwag, maybe a little beer in the afternoon if you'd like as well. All the beer in Paris is a bit expensive, €10 a pint. But if you're around there, say hello, please, at any time. If you were looking to meet and have a chat, it'd be brilliant. Hopefully you have enjoyed today's Sunday service, and you will continue to enjoy the Sunday service every week if you subscribe right here. Alright, that's it. But until the next time, I will see you on the far side.